All right. Good evening, guys. Kurt and Ray, how you guys doing?
When the music stopped, I thought I lost contact. I thought I got.
No more source transmission.
Oh my god!
How you doing? How's
I'm ready for round two. We definitely made a splash on our first call the other week.
Well,
Yeah,
somebody
they
didn't
took us
like us. Yeah, they took us down.
We learned the hard way. The copyright rules.
Breaking all the rules and regulations right off the bat.
Right.
How does do I sound okay? Am I too loud, too soft? Am I okay?
Sound good to me.
All right. You know what's really funny is, what is it? 8 o'clock my time, 10 o'clock your time, Jeremy, and what, 6 o'clock for you, Ray?
Yeah.
I'm only like 2 hours from bedtime.
Right. Hear you.
I mean, for me. And so it's funny because I'm usually, I get up in the morning and I got all these juices flowing and on fire, waking up every morning just totally on fire with ideas and everything. And we do these calls at night and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? it's like Clark Kent and Superman. That's the difference between Clark Kent and Superman.
It is a different vibe, eh? I even found myself thinking that way the last hour and a half. I was like overthinking almost. Whereas in the morning, it's just buck wild, and 6 hours later, we got to get off the phone.
Well, you shared that funny reel earlier, Kurt, where the guy was talking about hyperfocus.
Oh my God.
And he goes, circadian rhythm. What is that? What the hell is that?
Yeah. It's pretty funny. I when I saw that, I showed it to Debbie last night, and there's almost no way to describe to people, what attention deficit's like. But the neat thing is that when he started talking about being hyper focused for all these different topics, I realized that I was like that all my life. But for whatever reason, when I started down this path, imagine being hyper focused like that for 17 years. That's what I was trying to get at, because that same every day you wake up and you got this thing you got to get after. Well, I mean, he was talking about, a couple of weeks or maybe even a month or so, but 17 years of this shit,
That's your average school career, from 17 years old, you graduate high school. That's a long ass time.
Well, if you really think about it, I mean, you start school at 5-ish.
That's
and
true.
you graduate at let's say 17, so that's 12. So then you have to go to graduate school and work on your master's and then possibly your PhD, and that's another 5 years ish. And that's about what we're at here. I mean, seriously, there's nobody else in the world even talking about this stuff because nobody else even knows it. How's that? Maybe that's the way it should start. and you know what? I can prove that. I can prove it. When I was just looking for something to post today, something interesting, and I started thinking, okay, I got these books. I got these 3 books, and I picked them up. I started looking at them, and I said, I should just do a post on these books. And so I thought, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna talk about them? I don't really want to talk about them. I just want to put a couple of niblets out there. So for the post today, I dug up a picture of Right of Way, and I dug up a picture of First in Time, and I dug up a picture of Sound Mind, and then I got some copy out of the books and put them excerpts and some quotes or what have you. But the thing is, I thought, how cool would it be to actually put the audios up, for the books, the transcriptions, the actual audio of the transcription. So I dug up all the audios, and so there's an audio for Right of Way, and it's just a button. You just push it and it starts. And the same thing with First in Time. Now, I haven't heard these things for years. Realistically, I have not heard these audios for years. But I put on the audio for Of Sound Mind today, and I only got about an hour and maybe about an hour and 50 into it. But I'm telling you, anybody that's listening to this thing right now, if you haven't heard that audio, if you want to really know what we're doing here, if you want to know what I know, I would go listen. It's free. You don't have to pay anything to listen to it. So go to the today's post at Substack and scroll down all the way, down to the bottom of Sound Mind, and there's an audio you can listen to. And I'm telling you right now, it's 3 hours and 52 minutes. But by the time you're done with it, you're going to have a sense of what the hell I'm talking about, and you might have to listen to it 2 or 3 times, but that's a great place to start. I mean, seriously, a great place to start for this stuff. So that's all I got on today's post. But
And if you really want to learn it, you can type out the whole book 2 or 3 times, and it'll really get in your head.
You know that term binge watching, when you watch
Yeah.
something. I mean, you can binge listen to the New World Order Buzzsprout. It's it takes you over, and you really get swept away, because I shared this link right now with Jeremy, the elephant in the room on Wikipedia, and you'd mentioned nobody's fucking talking about this, Kurt. There's only one person that has the guts or the knowledge alone to say it out loud. And I just thought it was a funny idiom that we're kind of been stringing along. It says, is an English language idiom for an important and obvious topic that is left undiscussed due to its awkward and controversial nature. I mean, talk about subject matter, but that's what you're discussing in those thousands of hours of audio.
The elephant, and the funny thing about the elephant is the elephant is the truth. So it's right here in front of us, but nobody ever wants to talk about it, because the moment you bring up reality or the truth, all the things, all of the houses built in the sand, all the castles in the sand are in danger. And that's what I feel like I'm doing. So the truth is right here in front of us, but nobody wants to talk about it. So I bring up all this stuff, and people kind of struggle with it at first. I don't blame them. I've said this for years, that, I mean, if I went back in time and I met me 25 years ago, even though I am the best in the world at trying to explain this, I couldn't have convinced me. I mean, that's how I think difficult this stuff is, that even I couldn't have convinced me, because, well, 25 years ago, I wouldn't have been in a mental state I wouldn't have had the desire to learn anything different. And that's a big factor for most people. They don't, there's something, their life is just going along, and everything's okay. So they don't really need to hear anything new or anything that's going to upset the apple cart, even if it is the elephant of truth. And so that's what I'm trying to get at, is that I'm the best at it, and I could not have convinced me. So I understand the difficulty when you're first starting out, but in the last 6 years, what is it, 26, in the last 7 years, mostly by myself, if not all by myself, some pretty big things have happened, around the world. because of my letters, because of this information getting out. So I think it's important that people learn it, because the world that we're going into, either you're the owner or you're not. That's it. Either you're the owner or you're not. And we have an opportunity to be the owners of that, we'll call it data bank, the data bank account, which I've already proven multiple times over. So, and in my last letter to the president, I mean, I made it quite clear that I'm the owner of that data, DATA. So, yeah, I think it's worth it. But what do you guys, what? Oh, by the way, before we do anything, I noticed that the Supreme Court has ruled, as of, it looks like, is this October term, argued April 1st, that's April Fools, and decided June 30th of 2026. The Supreme Court has decided on the birthright citizenship.
Yeah. Mm.
And I don't know how you get 194 pages out of this. I just opened it up yesterday. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but it's kind of interesting because when you have the eyes to see it. You guys mind if I just take a minute on this thing? I haven't read it, but I have read it. I've read about 3-4 sentences, and I just want to explain what I'm looking at.
Yeah, please do. I got it on the screen here.
Yeah, I thank you. I'm looking at it myself, but I discovered a couple months ago, you guys know that I discovered that there is a federal state that exists, and it was created probably the 26th of December, 1933 at the Montevideo Convention. And that federal state is actually what is it? I guess it would be the fetal maternal placenta, the biology of me and my mom combined into one state as person. That's what they call it, a state as person. Well, that's a state. That's a state separate from, let's say, Illinois. So I come out of mom's womb. It looks like I'm arriving at the 21st. I don't know. It was Illinois the 21st state of the Union or something like that? Anyway, I know it was around 1818. But here's the thing. So I come out of mom, what looks like to be to the soil of Illinois, which would be part of the United States of America, lower 48 contiguous states, which means that there's a constitution for that state, that Illinois, and there's also a Bill of Rights for the person that arrives to that place, that state, capital C citizenship, if you want to look at it that way, or actually it's capital C citizen, according to the Patriot mythology. But that's just one. I mean, if I come out of mom's womb and I land in Illinois, then I should just be what's known as an Illinoisan, and I should have all the, privileges and immunities of the United States. Well, that's ever since the Civil War, things have changed. But so I'm going to go back to this birthright citizen thing, because birthright citizenship is based upon jus, J-U-S, space, soli, S-O-L-I. So I'm sure that Jeremy, you're probably putting up jus soli right now or something, or skipping over to it or locating it, because jus soli and jus sanguinis, jus soli means of the soil and jus sanguinis means of the blood. And those two citizenships exist simultaneously in the Americas. So you got these two positions, one's of the blood and one's of the soil. Well, what the hell? How can you have those two positions? Well, first of all, of the soil would be mother, and of the blood would be the father. So you got this separation between father and mother. So jus sanguinis is of the father, the blood of the father, or the bloodline of the father, and then jus soli would be the soil or the mother. So I'm going to go to this Supreme Court decision that I have not read, but just barely through the first paragraph. And this is interesting to me. It says, the question presented is whether the Constitution guarantees citizenship to children born in the United States of parents who are unlawfully or temporarily present in the country. Under the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. That's as far as I read. And the 14th Amendment, there's a lot of people that argue about that and what it is. Trump actually said that the 14th Amendment citizenship, the of the soil citizen, the birthright citizenship, was actually created for slaves, children of slaves. He actually said it in a video, and it's true. Children of slaves was what the 14th Amendment citizenship or personhood was created for. But what I really want to look at here is it says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Now, this is a case about children born. Children. Well, I'm going to use the word infant. What's interesting about that Montevideo state that was created in 1933 is that just a few months earlier, FDR, through his own words at the first inaugural address, said this is a day of national consecration, a nation, a consecrated nation, a holy nation. And then within a few months or whatever, they started issuing birth certificates, what I call deeds, to that Holy Land, deeds to the Holy Land. Well, it's based upon the afterbirth, and the afterbirth is the fetal maternal placenta. So you have the biology of the baby and the biology of mom in one organ, the placenta. The placenta is a feto, baby, maternal, mother organ. So you combine that, when the placenta comes out, it's actually the biology of two people, two living people, mom and baby. But if it's looked at as one organ, they can combine it into one thing. Well, the Montevideo Convention's interesting. I'm going to go to it right now. The Montevideo Convention actually speaks in the first article, in the very first article. Hang on a second, I got to pull it up. Obviously, I don't do this in advance because there's a reason I don't. Okay, so the Montevideo Convention, I'm going to go to the treaty. Article 1 says that the state as a person, look at that, right off the bat, it says the state as a person of international law should possess the following qualifications. 1, or A, a permanent population, B, a defined territory, C, a government, and D, the capacity to enter into relations with other states. So that's Article 1. And then Article 2 says the federal state shall constitute a sole person in the eyes of international law. So look at that. Article 1 establishes the state as a person, but then Article 2 says the federal state shall. In my interpretation, the first article is what the federal state is. So the federal state consists of a permanent population. Well, if you're looking at the fetal maternal placenta, the fetal biology is a population of one infant, and then B, it says a defined territory. Well, the land underneath that population is mom's biology, the soil. It's actually considered the soil. The placental material has the baby, my biology. Think of it as a boat landing on the shoreline, or a boat landing on a beach, or a boat landing on a bank. And then that bank or that beach or that shore would be the land under it. Well, that's the defined territory. That's the soil. Thus the term jus soli, of the soil. So you got this boat on this soil, or this biology on this soil, or this blood, the blood of the infant on this soil, which is the Holy Land. C says a government. What government? What's the government of that particular state? It's the federal government. Well, what's the definition of small f federal? Man's covenant with God. So the in God we trust becomes the regent or the overseer of this federal state. So the federal government is the government for this particular territory. They call it the insular possession of the United States. And finally, it says D, capacity to enter into relations with other states. That's legal capacity, or the ability to enter into relations. Okay, so that's that. So what I'm trying to get at is, if I go back to this thing, this 14th Amendment, it says all persons, well, remember, state is a person. The federal state exists now, and they're calling it a person, a legal person. That's the birth certificated person. The birth certificated person is the federal state. And all you have to do is go to Article 4, the Constitution at Article 4, and look up new state, NEW space STATE, new states. And it shows you where the federal government could actually create new states. Not like Wisconsin or Illinois, but federal states, as a matter of fact. So it says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. All persons are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Where does the infant reside?
On the island.
On the island. So you got it says, and of the state wherein they, the infant, the population of one reside, the residents. Where is that? When I'm in the womb, when I land in the uterine wall, mom's uterine wall, I'm going to use the word matrix because that's what it is. So when I'm in the matrix, when I'm in mother's matrix, I'm in there for about 9 months. 9 months is where I reside. That's a residence for 9 months. It's not my home, it's a residence. So you got to look at the uterine wall as a place where you once, it was a residence for you at one time in your life. When the fetal maternal placenta comes out, it has your biology still bound to that island territory. So your biology is still on that island. It looks like you still reside there biologically with your DNA. It looks like you're still a resident on that island, which is a federal territory. So I'm going to keep going over the sentence until it makes sense, because then what I want to do is I want to look at the last scene of Trading Places. Okay?
Sounds
Because
good.
I'm going to explain this thing in a second. So remember that the fetal-maternal placenta is like, well, I mean, realistically, if you have the back cover of First in Time, it shows you my boat on an island. But what I want to do is I want to look at the sentence until it makes sense. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Those are both qualifiers, by the way. You have to not only be born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. You have to already be subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. The state is the federal state where the infant biology is located. Why in the world is there two positions in this sentence in the 14th Amendment? It says citizens of the United States and of the state. Why didn't I just arrive at Illinois? Is my question. Why is there a United States and an additional state? The United States, as far as I'm concerned, is the lower contiguous. The 48 states lower contiguous that are Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Those are the United States that I know of. And by the way, I'm going to go to Black's Law real quick, just because this is the way my mind works. And I'm going to go to the word declaration real quick. And then I'm gonna cut the elephant loose. Declaration.
Let me know what page when you get there, Kurt, please.
I'm on page 367, Black's Law 5th edition. Now, the reason I'm going here is because I want people to understand why I think the United States is the country and the state is the federal state. So I'm at 367 and I'm at the word declaration. This first paragraph down, second paragraph, the third paragraph is one sentence long. It says, now I'm going to look at what you're showing because I want to make sure that it's correct. There it is right there. See where it says listing? Listing by person entering United States of merchandise or other goods brought into country by him. That one line tells you that the United States in this definition is considered a country. Look what it says here. A listing by persons entering the United States. Think of you. So Ray, you and I take a trip and we come back into the United States from another country, from some foreign country. We land at Chicago O'Hare. Our first stop is where? If we fly into the international level, what's our first stop?
Customs.
Customs. We stop at customs, and what are they going to ask us?
For an identity.
Nope. They're going to ask us, do you have anything to declare?
Oh, yeah.
No, really. They're going to say, are you bringing anything into the country that we should know about? Okay, so look what it says here. So a listing by person, a declaration is a listing by person entering the United States of merchandise or other goods brought into country by him. So we're at customs and we come off the plane, and the first thing they ask us, we stop at is customs, and they ask us, do you have anything to declare? Well, assuming we don't, we say no, and then we just keep going. But imagine this. Imagine mom's, I'm going to use my example. My mom, she was in Swedish American Hospital, September 1960, in the hospital, on the 4th floor, and it's about 3:49 a.m. and I'm about to come out. The question is, my mom does she ever, when I come out of her womb, does she ever declare my arrival into the United States? Did she ever declare anything about me? Did she ever declare me coming into the country?
No.
Isn't that a weird thought?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, how in the world do they even know I'm around? If mom does, I mean, if I come out of mom on the soil of Illinois, presumably, but mom never declares me to customs officials anywhere. So it's almost like I snuck into the country, isn't it? I wasn't there an hour ago. I wasn't there even a minute ago. But now I come out of mom and I'm in the country. At what point does mom declare my arrival to the United States? Never.
Sounds like an illegal alien.
Well, it sure kind of does, doesn't it? But here's the weirdest part. If all of me, I'm talking about the baby, the umbilical cord, and my extra embryonic material, if all of me came out at the same moment, in other words, we were delivered, because the definition of delivery is a fetus and its membranes. If I was actually delivered instead of cut apart, I would have arrived all at the same time. I mean, seriously, even though baby comes out of mom, and then there's a cord that straddles the unborn, or the world of the born and the unborn. It straddles for a little bit, and then the afterbirth comes out. Now, when the afterbirth comes out, that would have been a completed delivery. The baby, umbilical and extra embryonic, would have been a delivered kingdom. My kingdom intact, delivered whole. Now I'm all in one place at one moment in time. Mind, body, and spirit right here, right now. That's not what happens. They clamp and cut the cord. So baby's out here now at whatever time. or no time. I don't even know if they even write it down when I arrive. What do they write down, and what are they waiting on? Well, they clamp and cut the cord, they give me to mom. But then a few minutes later, this other material, the second coming material, shows up. A different time, different moment in time, not even located with me in space, separated completely. Now there's two of me. There's there's two deliveries, or maybe one half of a delivery times two. Now the reason I'm saying this is because the definition of goods is where I'm going to go with this. So you got to think of me, the baby, as the traveler, and I'm disembarking. I'm coming off of one plane of existence, which is the unborn. I come out of mom and I arrive at the airport. We're going to call it the hospital, or the port of entry, the hospital. I have bags, but they clamp and cut the bags off of me. So now my bags are not even with me anymore. Think about that. Ray, you and I arrive at the airport and they lose our bags.
Yeah.
We don't even have any bags. We show up in the US and there's no bags. So the bags are now going round and round in some carousel somewhere, and they end up in a lost and found. That's the afterbirth. My point is that that's also your goods, and it shows up at a later date. It shows up on paper with the birth certificate. The baby doesn't have any paper. But what I'm trying to get at is the goods that they're talking about at the definition of declaration. It says listing by person entering United States. Who's entering the United States?
The baby.
The baby. The baby's entering the United States. And it says of the merchandise or other goods. That's the afterbirth. Brought into country by him. Do you, as the owner of those bags, do you at any point in your life ever go to the lost and found and say, hey, listen, 65 years ago, somebody lost my bags and I've never gotten them. They've never been returned to me. Does anybody ever go back and ask for the bags, which is the fetal maternal placenta? Do you know anybody that ever went back and said, hey, you failed to deliver my bags? The goods?
Other than you, no.
No, I never ever heard of this ever before. The point I'm trying to make is that the listing by person entering the United States of merchandise or other goods brought into country by him. The idea is if you get out of the hospital with the baby and the bags intact, the idea is that nothing is left behind. There's no split personality. There's no possibility of something going wrong later on in life. But all I wanted to show you, though, is that it says listing a person entering the United States. So it's saying entering the United States. And then it says of merchandise or other goods brought into country by him. So they're actually using the United States and country interchangeably. That's all I was trying to do. I was trying to show that the United States, according to the definition of declaration here, is being used as the word country. So now back to the Supreme Court decision. It says all persons born or naturalized in the United States, born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. The weird thing is to me, the United States would be the country here, which in my case would have been Illinois. That's where I arrived. I came out of mom's womb on the soil of Illinois, presumably. But then it says, and of the state wherein they reside. In the fetal maternal afterbirth, in the federal state as person, according to the Montevideo Convention, the infant biology is still on the ground of the island territory, or the placental island. So that's the state where the infant resides. So you have the infancy on this soil of mother, the jus soli, infancy. Do you see this? Do you see the infant's residence? The infant is still stuck in the
Yeah.
womb, in the matrix,
The
and it's
infant membership.
it's the membership. Go to 1 USC 8 real quick. 1 USC 8. And then I want to get. I just want to introduce this because I haven't had enough time to really hammer this. But the 14th Amendment is a split personality. It's the baby and the baggage and effects. So 1 USC 8 at Cornell. Is that where you're at?
We got you.
Okay. Okay. So I'm at 1 USC 8 Cornell, and it says 1 US Code Section 8 or subsection 8, person, human being, child, and individual, as including born alive infant, which means it only is the born alive infant. So the born alive infant is the person. The born alive infant is the human being. The born alive infant is the child. The born alive infant is the individual. So then you read this first paragraph and it says, in determining the meaning of any act of Congress. Act of Congress. If you Google act of Congress and see what it says, what is an act of Congress?
Sexual intercourse.
It's a statute. It's a legislative statute. So acts of Congress result in legislative statutes. So it says, in determining the meaning of any act of Congress or any ruling, regulation, or interpretation of the various administrative bureaus and agencies of the United States, the words person, human being, child, and individual shall include. There it is. This is where it says only. It means only shall include. It doesn't include anything else because it's not mentioned. It says shall include every infant member of the species Homo sapiens who is born alive at any stage of development. So it only includes infant members. Well, what the hell is a member? Let me prove this. I'm going to Webster's at member. And look what Webster says a member is. My computer's slow, so if it takes a second, it's my computer. It's old. But member, Merriam-Webster's member, infant member. Look what it says here. 2 it says a body part or organ. A body part or organ such as a limb. A body part or organ. Well, the fetal maternal placenta is an organ, and it's such as a limb, like a branch of a family tree. Well, that's exactly what the umbilical cord evidence is. It's a branch. It's a piece of me that they're cutting off. They're cutting off a limb. They're actually cutting a limb off of me that evidences my family tree. They're cutting me off from my own ancestry by cutting the umbilical cord. But they're saving it. They're saving it the federal state, which is man's covenant with God. It's that simple. It goes right back to the small f federal man's covenant with God. It is the federal state. All right. But member means organ. So infant organ. If you go back to 1 USC 8, it says shall include every infant member, which is an infant organ, which is the fetal maternal placenta of the species Homo sapiens who is born alive. One last thing about that. I'm just going to evidence what born alive is. So Black's Law 5th edition, born alive. And then I'm done with this stuff for now because I hate this stuff. Let me see. I really do. I mean, born alive.
That's a great intro, though. It's a good warm up.
Well, it's new. It just came out, a couple days ago, and I haven't had a chance to read through the 196 pages. But Born Alive says,
what page, Jacker?
I am at 167, Black's Law 5th edition. Born Alive. And this is specific. It says being the product of conception. being the product of conception. So it didn't say the product of fertilization, which is the baby. The baby's the product of fertilization. Dad's 23 chromosome sperm, mom's 23 chromosome ovum. When they come together into a single divinity called zygote, that right there, I'm the product of fertilization. The baby, the man, the infant, the embryo, the fetus, products of fertilization. So what's the product of conception? Well, the definition of conception is actually implantation. Implantation happens about 7 days-ish after creation, fertilization. So what was created, the zygotic kingdom, whatever you want to call it, implants into the uterine wall. Implantation is called conception. So when I plant into the uterine wall, mom has prepared a piece of ground, a special piece of ground for me, a strip of land, so to speak. And that preparation, that prepared ground is the conception. Mom creates this piece of ground on her own, anticipating my arrival. That's the conception. It's where I implant. It's where I implant, where my kingdom comes out of the heavens and plants into Mother Earth or the soil. That's the conception. So Born Alive says being the product of conception. The only thing created at conception is the uterine wall ground upon which I land. Has nothing to do with baby. It's mom, and mom creates it herself. She does it with her own biology. So that conception, that uterine wall conception, is her 46 chromosomes. It's not baby's, and it has nothing to do with my dad. So this piece of ground is actually virgin land, virgin territory. It's virginal. Hell, it's the immaculate conception, for crying out loud. It had nothing to do. It wasn't created through an act of sex. It has nothing to do with a man. So my mom creates this conception on her own, this immaculate conception where my kingdom arrives and lands in. That's Born Alive. The conception is born alive. When it comes out of mom as part of the placenta, it's the maternal part of the placenta that evidences that conception. So again, let me finish reading this now. It says, being the product of conception. That has nothing to do with the baby. This is not the baby's biology. It says, after complete expulsion or extraction from mother, irrespective of the duration of pregnancy, which breathes or shows any other evidence of life, such as a beating of the heart, pulsation of the umbilical cord, or definite movement of voluntary muscles, whether or not the umbilical cord has been cut or the placenta is attached. And here's the key. It goes on to say, each product of such birth is considered alive born and fully recognized as a human person. The birth itself, people think they know what birth means. You don't. You have no idea what a birth is. When I go, if Ray, again, I'm always picking on you, but you and I are now going on a cruise. I don't know why we do so much stuff together, but we do. So we get our own rooms, thank God. But when we go into our room, the sleeping quarters on a ship, on a boat, that's called a berth. So imagine my kingdom is floating in the waters of mother for about the first 7 days, and it comes and it implants into the mothership. It implants into the uterine wall, i.e. the mothership. And that's where my boat, that's where my kingdom comes to rest, in its birth. The mothership is where I sleep for the next 9 months. But that place where I implant is the birth. So when you read it, and what is the birth made up of? It's made up of the conception. Mom's uterine wall accretion conception. That's the birth. So it says each product of such birth. They're talking specifically about the accretion, or that piece of ground mom created, which turns into the island territory in the afterbirth. It says each product of such birth is considered live-born and fully recognized as a human person. Why? Because it has human DNA. So the afterbirth comes out. It has some of my biology on some of mom's biology. My biology matches the baby. So realistically, that biology, the fetal biology in the placenta, is part of me. But the uterine wall, product of conception, mom's part of the placenta. What about that? Well, they're saying, according to Born Alive, that that's a human person too. And that's the thing right there. That's a different person than I am. My biology extends all the way back to fertilization, which is the origin of the species. But this thing here, this immaculately conceived conception, is the maternal part of the placenta. That's the ground or the island territory. That, I believe, is the state in the 14th Amendment. I'm going to go back to it says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. It doesn't say where they once resided, it says where they reside. So that's present tense. Does my biology ever separate from the placenta? Ever? I'm 65 years old. Did my fetal biology ever separate from that matrix?
That's inextricably intertwined.
No, it's inextricably intertwined. It doesn't ever separate. So that the deed to that ground, Curtis Richard Kallenbach, the birth certificated person, the deed to that ground includes my biology on that island territory because it's inextricably intertwined. So I believe that that is the state wherein the infancy resides in the present moment, because the record actually proves it. When they bring out the public record for Curtis Richard Kallenbach, it's a record of an infant that still is attached to its mother, still stuck in the matrix. It's still there, according to the record. But what's the definition of record? The definition of record is, say it.
An unsurpassed statistic.
An unsurpassed statistic. So their public record evidences a state as person in an infant position on an island territory. That's the state I believe they're talking about here. So now you got this, the citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Okay, now I'm going to really split hairs as if I already haven't been. Ready?
Cue the wild dolphin.
Oh my God, this is going to go nuts right now. I'm looking right at it. I just don't know how to explain it. Okay. Yeah, right. Okay, so here we go. Is there any way you could pull up the back cover of First in Time again for me?
Yeah, which one is that again?
It's a boat on the island.
Yeah, no problem. Just give me a sec.
This and then cue up the last scene of Trading Places after this, okay?
Sounds good.
And then I'm done with this shit. I'm done with this. Then I'll run wild on some other crap. But I really want this. What he just did. Trump got shot down, but I don't think he really did. I think that they made it look like there was a decision to be made, but they really can't do that. Okay, so this, make it big if you can. Is that as big as it's going to get?
Yeah, unfortunately.
That's okay. So because I have a real copy here in front of me. So the top is actually, you see that layer of pink, and then that big bulbous thing that is implanted into that layer of pink. The layer of pink is mom's uterine wall. And this big bulbous thing is actually my kingdom coming to rest or implanting into the uterine wall. That's what that is. And of course you can see the colors. My colors look sort of orange as opposed to the pink from mom. So my orange that's going down into that pink, that's my what would they be? I guess my roots. Literally, those are my roots. My ancestral roots from this Noah's Ark, my ancestral roots are now going down into the soil of mom's uterine wall. Those are my roots going into the uterine wall. Well, now imagine, this is going to take a little bit of imagination, but inside this dome, under the dome, inside this dome is an embryo growing. The embryo is growing inside this dome. Now, of course, little by little, this dome gets further into the uterine wall, and eventually it's covered over completely. So it's buried underground, almost like a hobbit. But I mean, it gets buried eventually, completely surrounded by mom's uterine wall. But inside this dome is the embryo, and then it grows into the fetus, and then it grows into the baby. So this right here, inside of that is inside. I'm going to call this big dome thing, I'm going to call it the ark. This is my ark. This is the ship that I'm in. This is the capsule that I'm whatever. I'm inside this damn thing. 9 months later, though, what happens? I come out.
You come out of her.
I come out of her, just like the Bible tells me to. So I come out of her. So now this is an empty ship. It's still attached to the uterine wall, but it's busted open. There's been a breach, and I, the ship captain, have left the ship. So this ship is still attached to the uterine wall. And so when it comes out, when this uterine wall and this ship come out, it comes out as the feto-maternal placenta. The roots and the dome and all that stuff, the amnion and all that stuff left behind, that's my biology. That's my ship. That's my ark. And the ground under it, that's mom's uterine wall. So now you look down below that and you see a boat on an island. That's exactly what the record is showing. It's showing a vessel on an island. Now I'm going to go back to the Supreme Court. I believe, and I can prove it, but I'm just going to say I believe that it says, when it says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Now I'm going to say that the citizen of the United States, I'm going back to the boat. I'm going back to the citizen is the boat franchise. It's the federal boat franchise, the ship, the citizenship. This is the federal citizenship. That's the United States citizen. The ship, citizenship, is the federal franchise. The land under the ship is the state wherein the ship resides. So the citizen of the United States is the federal franchise, the boat itself, and the state wherein the boat resides is on that island. The island is the state where the boat resides. They who? The federal franchises, the ships. So the citizen of the United States is the federal franchise, and the state is the ground under the ship, where the ship resides. So I'm going to go back to that picture. The boat on that island is the citizen of the United States. That's the boat. It's the citizenship. Let me be clear. It's the citizenship of the United States. It's a federal franchise. It's a commercial franchise. It's a commercial vessel. And of the state wherein who's they? The citizenships reside. So the state is the island and the citizen is the boat. The federal franchise commercial vessel is the boat, and the ground under the boat, the island itself, is where that boat resides. And it's on the back cover of the second book. Does anybody follow this? Do you guys follow this?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Yep.
So now, Jeremy, if you would please, is there any way, God, I don't, we're probably going to get thrown off again, but is there any way to show the last scene of Trading Places? I can find the exact one if you want me to.
Well, we've got it here, but I was
Okay.
just going to say the same thing you did. This one's only 1 minute and 8 seconds.
Let's try it, because
you
what
wanna
I'm
try
going to, let's watch it, because if we can, then I'll talk about it, because this is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay, I'm just going to say in advance that if for some reason we do get booted, I will have us back up within 5 to 10 minutes on the same platform. So just so everybody is aware, if we get booted, we'll be back in 5 to 10. just gonna. There's an important comment here, Neil. He suggested talking during the clip, so if you can add anything along the way, Kurt, by all means.
Well, the Eddie Murphy character that's laying on the beach on the shoreline is a person of color. A person of color. That's part of the fictional position. That's the legal fiction. But I mean, he's a person of color. Now we see him as a black man, but he's actually a person of color. Okay, keep going.
I'm just going to turn on the subtitles as well and turn the volume down a bit. There we go.
What should we do about lunch? The lobster or the cracked crab?
What do you think?
Can't we have both?
Why not? To me, treat. Sir, lobster and cracked crab for everyone. Extra primo good, Mr. Coleman, sir.
Okay, stop. By the way, Coleman was a British manservant, to the next character that's introduced. But what I want you to see is that everybody's happy. Eddie Murphy, the person of color, is on this island. He's already on the island, like a native, like an indigenous person on an island already. Okay, so now what we're gonna see in a second is we're gonna see a boat, the vessel, offshore, with the main character, one of the main characters, wearing a sweater vest with red, white, and blue on it, evidencing the United States vessel. So the United States vessel is out there, but then there's a mooring line, the umbilical cord, that's running from the front of the boat all the way down under through the water, and the presumption is it's attached to the island. So if you think of the vessel as a U.S. vessel because it's red, white, and blue, and its mooring line, the umbilical cord, is attached to the island, which is actually it's the cover of my first book, Baby, Umbilical Cord, and Extra Embryonic Material. The baby, umbilical, and extra embryonic. The baby is the vessel, if you think of it that way. The mooring line is the umbilical cord, and the island is the fetal-maternal placenta. And this last scene is everybody's happy. Why are they happy? Because it's the entire monozygotic maritime monarchy in one place at one moment in time where they have access to all the money. They defeated all the bad guys, so to speak. Now they're attached. They're all looked at as one unit. The vessel, the baby, the umbilical cord, and the fetal maternal placenta is one kingdom. That's why they won. So anyway, let it finish up and see if it works. There's Dan Aykroyd wearing a red, white, and blue sweater. A sweater vest. Stop. So he's wearing a sweater vest, which, if you think of the vestment, and I know I've had discussions about the vestment is what?
The suit.
Right. It's the suit or the clergy. The vestment would be the clothing that evidences the priesthood, which is the federal, the boat, the vessel, the baby. I used to be wrapped in it, and now I'm not. But what I'm getting at is now you got this boat, this red, white, and blue boat, which is the federal franchise, moored to the island territory. So now it's all one. And when it's all one, everybody, they're at peace. They're not at war anymore. But you got to watch the whole movie to understand how the movie started. And once you see this movie, I don't know, 500 times like me, you'll realize that you have the Dan Aykroyd character was an attorney, and the Eddie Murphy character was a homeless guy on the street, and they bumped into each other on the street, and they ended up through a bet, a $1 bet, I may add, that they traded places. The guys that ran the show put the person of color over here and the attorney guy over there, and they traded places and lived in those positions for a while. But when they realized what had happened, they started working together. Again, they became harmonious by working together. This last scene is how it ended, In other words, the kingdom's intact between the baby, the umbilical, and extra-embryonic, or better yet, let's just say it, the United States of America. The United States vessel of America, the land underneath, it's all one. The United States of America now is together. It's not the United States separate from America, which is what they always talk about now. Oh, the American people. And then, of course, the United States is some other outfit, like they're two separate entities. But when they're bound together, when they're together, when the United States of America is one country, is what is ultimately what I'm talking about here. That's where sovereignty exists. That's where you have all your rights and privileges and immunities and all that stuff. Anyway, let it finish up and then. See the mooring line off the front of the boat?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what this Supreme Court decision basically, and I haven't read it yet, but it seems like they're still allowing for the birth certificated character to exist as a separate state. It looked like Trump was trying to get rid of it by his actions, but I think they needed the Supreme Court to step in and make sure that the federal state existed separately still to this day. I think that's what happened here. And again, I only got through that right there, that where I finished reading. That's as far as I got, because I didn't see any need to read anymore, but now I'm going to, just because I want to see how they did it. So anyway, the United States is the federal franchise, the ship or the commercial vessel, and the state is where that commercial vessel actually sits, which is the island territory. And again, just go to Montevideo, and it says at Article 1, the state as a person. So now it's a state, but it's a person. It's viewed as a person, a federal state. The state as a person of international law. So again, it's only within the international scope of things. It's not domestic. That island is offshore. And it says international law should possess the following qualifications: a permanent population of what? One vessel, one infant vessel. That's the boat. That's the franchise. A defined territory. That's the island. A government. That's the federal government, small f. And a capacity to enter into relations with other states. Contracts. And then right under that, Article 2 says the federal state shall constitute a sole person in the eyes of international law. A sole person in the eyes of international law. So I think the federal state between the vessel and the island, it says shall constitute. What's the definition of constitute?
I'm looking it up right now.
It's of what something is made. Look at to make up, form, or compose. To make up, form, or compose. Look at the word compose. Go to 35 USC 101. Inventions patentable. United States Code. Remember, to constitute is to compose. It says 35 U.S. Code 101, inventions patentable. Whoever invents or discovers any new and useful process, machine, manufacture, or what does it say there, Ray?
Any new and useful improvement thereof.
No, what does it say right after manufacture?
Or composition of matter.
There it is. There's your compose right there. Composition of matter is the fetal maternal placenta. So again, back to the convention, it says at Article 2, the federal state shall constitute a sole person. The federal state. Well, what's the federal state made up of? The boat and the island. The fetal biology and the maternal biology. The fetal maternal placenta. What is the boat? That's the data. That's my DNA. What is the island territory? That's the bank where the boat resides, where the boat is located. The data bank. My DNA on that bank, on that island. That's the data bank. The fetal maternal placenta is a data bank, but look at Article 2 says the federal state shall constitute a sole person. So in other words, this ship and island is an invented, patentable composition of matter. And so the patent in what I believe that's the deed. I believe that's the deed to that Holy Land. That's the patent. The deed is the patent. And of course, what are we doing? We're fighting over that island territory. We're warring over it. We're at war over that island. That's competition over a particular end. The particular end is the cut end. The cut end is the fetal maternal placenta. I know this is hard for people. I mean, I've been at it too long. Maybe I should step away from this crap and let other people try to hammer it out, because it's too easy for me. And then I get really frustrated because nobody else can see it, because I'm missing pieces. I'm not putting it all together properly anymore, you know?
Well, I'll try to ask some dumb questions.
Okay, ask away, because I'm done talking about this shit.
Can we bring up the First in Time back cover again? That was a good visual to look at as you were explaining. Like in a memoir, you use the term ARC membership, and you're explaining the fetal surrounding that dome-like protecting the baby as the ark. And just to be clear, what they're saying is that the ark is the citizenship that resides on the maternal state.
Yes.
Okay. And those two components constitute a state as a person.
Together.
Okay. Which becomes a federal state that has international position.
Yes, because when they clamp and cut the cord, they measure it. It becomes a measure, but the afterbirth gets weighed metrically. So it's a metric system weight, and metric is international. So this island territory, because it's metric, it's an international territory. It's international. It's not domestic.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that island. If this island is the federal, well, I'm going to call it the federal state. The 16th Amendment is based upon income, but it's only for federal properties, let's say, or federal. It's a federal amendment. So you got this island offshore, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to say that island out there offshore is Curtis Richard Kallenbach. And that island out there, Curtis Richard Kallenbach, has a social security number. We'll call it a tax number or whatever you want to call it. Now think about this. If I go to work anywhere and I use that number or that name, presumably, then everything I do through that name, through that island territory, the island becomes a conduit. It's a conduit. So everything I do here, where I'm located on the soil of Illinois, it then goes offshore through Curtis Richard Kallenbach, through the island territory. And then in order for me to use it here, the product of my labor, I have to bring it back in to use it, that energy, the product of my labor. So what I'm doing right here to create it, I send all that out offshore to that island territory, but it's now, in order for me to use what I earned, I have to bring it back in. It becomes income. Now it's income subject to income tax. That's how they're getting away with this income tax bullshit, because the island out there is now, you have, in order for you to get your access to your money you have to bring it in from that island
Mhm.
to here, wherever you're located in the present.
Well,
Now, hang on a second.
okay.
So your vessel, your commercial vessel that is on that island, you're using that boat to go do commerce. That's the vessel in commerce, but it's on that island. The boat is on the island, but look at the picture. The boat is on the sand, right? The beach.
Hmm.
It's on the bank. That's the bank account. The sand, the beach, the bank, whatever, the shoreline where the boat lands is the bank. The bank of the river, call it what you want. But that land underneath that boat is the bank. So the account of that bank, when that boat lands on that bank, that's the bank account of the vessel, of the commercial vessel. Think about that. Your bank is offshore. The bank account is offshore. So all your money has to come inland from offshore because you're using the name, the deed to that land. So everything you do through the birth certificated character goes out offshore and then has to come back in. And when it comes back in, it's taxable. The reality is everything you do is here in the present. When I make my money, when I earn my stuff, it's right here with me. But they're getting me to agree to that offshore shell corporation, that offshore shell, that bank account offshore. They're getting me to agree to use that account, the bank account. It's also known as a minor account. It might even be considered one of the minor outlying islands of the United States. Could be. Just throwing it out there for people. But that's the bank account. I'm sorry, you were going to say something, Ray.
Oh no, it's just along the lines of the two positions, the something incoming from somewhere else.
Right.
After a citizen submits the taxes, after they're given a tax return, which also implies, a two positions, something coming from somewhere else.
Let me try to explain that a little bit easier. Two positions. I'm here in the present, holy, breathing right now, filled with the breath of God, right now in the present moment. I have never been in the past, and I have never been in the future. I'm always only present. That's the only position life exists. It only exists in the present moment. Everything else is a fiction. So now think about this. The birth certificated island, in other words, I'm going to call it what it is, a state as person. The birth certificated state as person, according to the Montevideo and the federal state, the birth certificated state as person. Where is that state? Where is it located actually?
On the maternal ground.
Nope. Where? If I'm in the present, where is it located?
Oh, in the past.
It's located on a calendar that evidences the past, the historical record. So the historical record is where that island's located. So it's in history. I'm in the present. That island is frozen in time on the Gregorian calendar. So think about that. The only way for me to get my property that I own in that I always own in the present, I have to go back to that island territory in the past. Well, guess what? The Gregorian calendar is the trust. The historical record is the trust. They're holding all the property in history on the Gregorian calendar timeline. I can't get to anything. If I buy a car today, what is today? Today's Wednesday. So if I buy in the present, we'll call it Wednesday. It's not really Wednesday. It's just today. But if I buy a car today, when I wake up, when I go past 12 midnight tonight, I bought the car yesterday according to their timeline. So now I'm in the present, but the paperwork suggests that I bought the car in history. So now the car's in history. and yet I'm in the present. So the only way I can access the car or anything is to use the agent available to bridge the gap between the present and the past. And that particular agent in most cases would be an attorney. They're the ones that help bridge the gap between the present moment, which is life, and the legal fiction or the legal realm or the historical record. Because you can't go back in time. You need an agent to cross over between the world of the living and the world of the corporate or the dead, the past.
The ferryman.
Yeah, the ferryman. And in fact, I'll read it real quick. They call that vessel, by the way, I believe, a ferry. It's a ferry franchise. I know I read it some other time, but what I'd like to do when I'm done with this ferry franchise is I would prefer that you guys just throw shit at me. I'm going to ferry franchise.
As soon as we're done ferry franchise here, before I know Ray's got a couple things he wants to cut loose on, but before that, I think we should give a brief description of what's happening with the Substack and all that. Just
okay, you can do that though, right?
Yeah, I can.
Let me find ferry. Okay, there it is. Page 559, ferry franchise. So you got to think about crossing the span of time or the space. They got to do something. So they created something. It's called a ferry franchise. It says the public grant of a right to maintain a ferry at a particular place, a right conferred to land at a particular point and secure toll for the transportation of persons and property from that point across the stream. A grant to a named person empowering him to continue an uninterrupted land highway over the interrupting waters. But look at that. So imagine that island territory. How do you get to that island? You need some sort of a boat, a vessel. And they offer it through the federal franchise. That's the only way you can get to your bank account is through their federal franchise, their ferry franchise. That's the only way you can do it because that's the way it's designed. In reality, you don't need any of that shit. In reality, you own it all right now. I mean, you buy a car today, it's yours today. It's yours when you wake up tomorrow. It's yours always. You own it. But in their world, you can't own anything because when you wake up tomorrow, it's now in the In God We Trust called the historical record. So now you don't even own the property. It's held in trust. That's why when people talk to me about trust, they creep me out because in reality, living men don't use fucking trusts ever. They don't use fucking trusts. Living men act directly on their property, their owned property. They do not go through middlemen and that shit. That stuff is only necessary in the fiction. You do not need that stuff in reality. Nobody had a fucking trust when we owned property. Nobody had trust. They didn't even exist. You know what a trust would be? Here's a trust. Here's a real trust. Debbie and I have decided to go to England, or no, we're going to Scotland and Ireland so I can drink decent beer and play golf. Okay. So before we leave, I call you up, Ray. I said, listen, Debbie and I are going to leave the country for a while. Would you mind taking the keys to the kingdom while we're gone? And you say, no, man, I'll take it. Yeah, no problem. When are you leaving? I'd say, well, we're leaving next week. So you come from California or whatever, and you show up here and I give you the keys to the kingdom. I give you the keys to the truck, the car, the house. I show you the bank accounts. I do all kinds of shit. And now you are acting as let's call it a fiduciary for my kingdom while Debbie and I are gone. So you make sure while I'm gone that I have money that when I need it, to do whatever I'm doing over there, you pay the accounts, you administrate all the fucking property. You do all the stuff while Debbie and I are gone, while the king is away. Ray, you have agreed to become the fiduciary for the kingdom. That's the trust. But it's between friends, or it's between somebody, people that actually know each other. I don't establish a piece of paper. We don't do any of that shit. It's a handshake, and I trust you. Literally, I trust you with my kingdom while I'm gone. That's a trust in reality. Now, 6 months later, I give you a call and said, "Hey, listen, we're landing at Chicago O'Hare in about 4 or 5 hours. Meet me at the gate at the house." And we get out of the Uber or out of the limo or whatever the hell we show up in, and you're standing there with the keys to the kingdom. I don't have to wait for you to give it back to me. It's already mine. It's always been mine. But I've entrusted you with my kingdom while I'm away. But when I'm not away, I don't need you. No offense, but I don't need you when I'm here. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
When you're fully present, you don't need a fucking trust. They got everybody believing in this "in God we trust" bullshit, and then it becomes the loser, because now the administrative process is handling all of the property, because it's all held in trust, because nobody's here. Everybody's missing. Everybody's missing, presumed dead, because they disappeared somewhere. There's no living people anymore. They've all taken the birth certificated legal fiction and replaced themselves with some stupid ass character born to the Gregorian calendar. They disappeared. They're not here. So all property is held in trust, because no living man, nobody's evidenced life. Everybody chose to adopt the legal fiction and disappear into La La Land, or the fictional realm. That's what happened. There's nobody here but me.
So if you never come back,
if you never come back, it stays in trust forever.
if you enjoy the beer too much in Scotland, I become the bailiff.
Well, you're going to just have to keep sending me money unless I die. So, but ultimately you would be entrusted with the kingdom forever. Realistically, you'd be taking care of the yard. You'd make sure that the grass was mowed. You'd be taking care of shit when I was gone. But the moment I come back, it's not a fight over you. Kurt, I don't want to give you back any of this stuff. I'm going to keep it for myself. That shit never happens. But that's what's happened with us, because we don't even know. We don't even know that the trust exists for people that are missing, presumed dead. Missing, presumed dead. One last word I'll say, then I'm going to cut you loose on the Substack stuff. I'm going to go to the definition of expilatio, Black's Law. And expilatio is on page 519. Expilatio says, in the civil law, the offense of unlawfully appropriating goods. 519. There it is. Right there. Expilatio to the right. Over to the right. There it is. In the civil law, the offense of unlawfully appropriating goods are the baggage and effects that were once attached to me. Goods belonging to a succession. Well, I'm the king, I'm the monarch, but they cut off my bags, they cut off my baggage and effects, which are called goods. They cut my goods off. It says unlawfully appropriating goods belonging to a succession. It's not technically theft, because such property no longer belongs to the decedent nor to the heir, since the latter, the heir, has not yet taken possession. Well, how do you take possession of something that's been cut off of you? Seriously, how do you take possession? How do you repossess something that you don't even know you have? How many people know that they have this island territory that has it's their database, it's their bank account? How many people even know that it's theirs, that it even exists? None. That's your sovereignty. That's your ownership. It's everything, and nobody even knows about it. How's that? Pretty good, huh?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Because it is everywhere once you see it.
Yeah, and you can't stop seeing it.
You can't afford it. No.
That's all I got for that. But like I said, I don't know. I get tired of even talking about this stuff, but every once in a while some new people show up and I get excited. So,
well, there is a lot of exciting things going on, and so we'll just I'll bring up the link tree here first, just in case we have some newcomers on here. So Oh, that's not the right one. My bad.
And Ray, start thinking about some questions that you have or still have. That, like I said, we when we get the three of us get together, we cover some amazing shit. I think once we cover some of this house cleaning stuff, we can start digging around and let the elephant loose.
So we've made this link tree a few weeks back, and this is now kind of a root system where you can get to all of Kurt's works very easily. Anybody who is familiar with Kurt's works is obviously going to be familiar with the New Word Order. Over here, you can find there's 158 audios on there. Most are over 3 hours, some pushing 4. There's a lot of knowledge there. What is it, 500 hours on there?
I think
Kurt?
it's over 500 hours. Yeah. It's the core. Yeah. It's the core, though. I mean, seriously, to me, you start listening to that stuff, and it's $7 a month. I mean, you can give as much as you want, but it's $7 a month for 500 hours of mind-blowing stuff. Even I listen to it occasionally and go, "Holy shit, I said that!" Unbelievable stuff. So $7 a month. I'm not sure what a coffee costs over at Starbucks anymore, but I'm pretty sure it's about that much.
And you would, if somebody's stumbling across these for the first time, where would you recommend they start?
This is kind of hard to say, but the best way answer is find a title that looks interesting. That's the best thing to do right off the bat. So, I mean, I'm going to do it right now. I'm just going to look at something. In fact, I'm going to go to New Word Order and just see what it looks like when it comes up. So I'm just going there, and I know, so there's 158 episodes. A Remastered Life is actually, there's 11 parts to it because I'm going over a document pretty in depth, and it's pretty hard to do. But anyway, so let's just say I'm down at episode number 141, The Noble Lie. That might be interesting. If I think that Noble Lie sounds interesting, I would start there. You know what I mean? 142, 2026. Hey, that's the year we're in. Maybe I should listen to that. You know what I mean? So I would go someplace first and listen to something that sounds interesting. And once I wet my whistle, then I might, realistically, if it were me, I'd go back up to the top, to the newest ones. Mm-hmm. And I would work my way back. But I would do it, if I was going to do that, part 1 is episode 147. And then I would go to part 2, part 3, part 4, all that. So, but I would start at the top, meaning I would start at the newest stuff and work backwards and force myself to learn what Kurt knows now. That's what I would do. I'd force myself to get to where I am right now. No offense to anybody that's done this, but I mean, you could go all the way back to episode 1, 500 hours away from where I am today. Imagine, I don't know how many years it's going to take you to get caught up, but I would start where I'm at today. So there's your real answer. The other one is look for something that's interesting first, because that way you made the choice. You're not being told what to do. I don't like to tell people what to do. So find something that looks interesting, listen to it, get accustomed to my brutality, and then go back up to the top or whatever and work your way backwards towards the earliest stuff. Start with the newest and work back towards the oldest.
All right, so that's New Word Order, and Kurt described it really well as like the journey.
It is a journey.
Absolutely, it is. And then obviously the main website, supremebeing.life. But let's get to the Substack here. So we've had a lot of questions this week, which is to be expected. There's a lot of new moving parts. But the Substack, Kurt, you've described it as what it's going to be the new home base. And I think with the audios being in New Word Order, with the website and the PMA, there's a bit of confusion among people that are trying to stay caught up. So when we say it's going to be the new home base, how do you see that transition looking?
The supremebeing.life site ultimately it could end up being only a landing page that where the books are located, where people can, I mean, where things that can't be done at Substack.
Right.
I mean, realistically, you know, I can't sell anything at Substack. I can't, you know, I don't have a sales cart there. You know, I can't actually take money there.
Right.
Maybe in the future you can, but supremebeing.life right here is where all that stuff is. I mean, whether, and I'm going to get rid of some stuff. I'd rather just have a landing page for the Supreme Being. But that's it. And there's a really nice, if you read the evolutionary due process, if you read that stuff, I mean, realistically, could I put that at Substack? Sure, I can. But you know what? It's already written down. Read it, learn it, but understand that this site here was my first attempt to get this information out. Now, how do I move it? I can't get this site out anywhere because nobody gives a shit about it. But it's there. And it will always be there, and it might be the place where, you know, you pay for the whatever classes, courses, whatever other information, live courses, whatever would be here. So that's the site that I created specifically. New World Order, you know what? That's just going to sit there. I'm not adding any more content to it, but there's already 500 hours of audio there. I'm not bringing them over to Substack because I can't. Number one, I couldn't even afford to do it. I can't afford to because I make so little money. I can't afford to bring it over and lose everything, that the only money I got coming in. I can't do it.
Right.
So I'm not going to do it. I mean, if I could, I would, but I can't. So New World Order is always going to be there, but it's no new content's going to be added. So, but there, you know what? You don't need any new content because there's 500 hours that you can't listen to now. There's already too much to do. So, but Substack to me is, so I don't have to do anything more at Facebook. You know, I put stuff up there occasionally just to keep people to let people know I'm living. But I think Substack has a way to reach the whole world. Facebook doesn't. They don't even let my shit out there. I got 7,000 people and I get 5 responses a month.
Right.
So nobody's even seeing my stuff at Facebook. I think we control Substack. I think we can get the information out, but we can't do it in other places. I think it's I'm sold on it completely. So I love it. I can put easy stuff up. By the way, I do put all the easy stuff up. Ray creates all the videos and stuff, and Jeremy puts all the mega content up there. So I got the easiest job at this point. I do. I have the easiest job, but I love the way this is going to lay out. And for people just getting there, it's going to be amazing. All the shit that's going to be here eventually, and especially with these guys just taking stuff right out of the content that already exists and making it fun. You know, I don't make things fun. I make them hard. But I think it's fun to look at this stuff and fun to see Ray's videos and things like that. So I can't do any of that. And I don't want to do any of it anymore. So what do you think? What do you guys see Substack as? Because I don't understand it well enough yet.
Well, I think just to touch on what you just said there too, I don't think you should be doing that. I think it prevents you from your forward progress, and we all know what your strength is. It's seeing through all of this. So that was one of my biggest inspirations in aiding in this endeavor was like, I had a lot of people asking me, what, you know, Kurt should have this, Kurt should have this one. And I was always saying myself, well, geez, he's on the phone and doing calls all day. When does he have the time to do that? So it worked out really good that Ray came along and reached out. And then it's moving pretty quick, and it is beautiful. I just wanted to show people briefly one of the really long posts that is behind paywall, just an example of what one of these contains. So we did the course, was that last weekend, 2 weekends ago, I guess. And
yeah, I'm still recovering.
Right. They were about 4 hours a night, 4.5 the last night. So a lot of content, 11 hours of content in just 72 hours. So anybody that did attend, I'm sure they can vouch. There was a lot of information in there. So what we did is we obviously had the recordings and the transcriptions. So we have gone through all of those and ensuring that we're not missing any sources that were mentioned each day. So what this specific article entails is day one. And just to give you an idea, there's 25,000 words in this. There's teaching modules at the beginning that describe everything in Kurt's words. Nothing's being changed. There's lots of links to the things, everything mentioned here. And then when you get through the teaching modules here, I'm just going to briefly rip down here. Geez, that is long. Then you'll see a break in all these big posts, and there'll always be a sources and evidence. And literally every source that Kurt covered in these conversations that day is in here. Not only with the wording, the source link for you to click and go directly to, but we've also gone out of our way to make sure everything's highlighted. So that when you actually get to the source link page, you know you're looking at the right information. You know that you're basing your comprehension on what Kurt was pointing out. And like I said, just for this one day, there's 40 on there. Everything you can think of, from Wikipedia to Black's Law to directly from, I believe that one's from Rerum Novarum, the biblical quotes, you name it. We're getting it all on here.
Let me throw in something right here, because I don't ever make anything up. I prefer to not use any of my words, even in my posts, if I can help it. I would rather take somebody else's words or the evidence and put it together so people could see how it does come together. But I'm not making any of this shit up. I'm actually trying to use all of the sources' words. Even in my letters, I write very little, a paragraph here, a paragraph there, but I'm citing all this stuff. So all the evidence, nothing is made up by me. I don't make up anything. So again, even the books, there's 600 plus pages in the last two books. And there's very little that I actually wrote. Most of it is just an assembly of evidence that proves my stuff or what I've discovered. And that's why I love what Jeremy's done with this stuff, is that he's taking the ideas, the words that I spoke, and he turned it into copy that is concrete. You can look at it and read it and look at it 100 times and go, I finally get it. A light bulb comes on above your head. Thank God for Jeremy at this point. So I can't do any of this shit. I can't.
Another thing with Substack I wanted to mention before we cue into Ray's holster, I guess we'll call it. We were discussing doing lives on Substack. They would be more of an interactive live. We're possibly thinking about doing it, alternating one public live like this one week and then a live on Substack the following week. Those lives would be behind the paywall, but they would be, rather than us just sitting on here for a few hours, they would be for the viewer more so. So it would be more interactive, more Q&A. So we're thinking about kind of getting on that schedule. Did you guys maybe want to try that next week, or maybe do one more public week and then give it a go?
Whatever you guys like. I don't care. I mean,
I think we should do one more public week, and then 2 weeks from now, we'll do that first one. It'll give us some more time to get accustomed to it as well.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So anybody that is listening, 2 weeks from now, there will be a more viewer-friendly, interactive live. So if you have any questions or anything, get your Substack subscription, and those lives will be dedicated to answering questions. And it'll be more.
That's another thing. I think the live call, I mean, we could actually hold it. I mean, all the content behind the wall, behind the paywall. I mean, there's tons of questions there that pertain specifically to what's part of the subscription. So anybody that's a subscriber at that point, I mean, behind a paywall, I should say, paying subscriber, the work that you put together, everything behind that wall, I mean, there's so much there that I can't imagine people wouldn't have questions. If that's all we did was answer questions about all the stuff back there, I mean, it'd be worth it to me right there, because I love answering questions that people really have, you know. I don't really want to hear the rest of it. I prefer just somebody saying, I don't understand this, I don't understand that. Great. Let me explain it.
Right. And I think for people that are learning, it's you've got to not be shy. You got to come out of your shell a little bit and try reaching out to some people who are talking about this stuff in the PMA, because it is very hard to learn without being able to converse with somebody or ask questions. That's why we are on the phone so much. It's to sit and just try to diagnose all this yourself, unless you're Kurt, is nearly impossible. But once you get in a conversation flowing with a few people, you'd be amazed what you can comprehend in an hour compared to just reading from an article or something. Other than that, Ray, you got some stuff lined up here. I think we've covered Substack pretty good.
Yeah, on Substack, I see it as a great way to chronicle all the work that Kurt's done up to this point, that long journey, and just kind of like a fresh start to recompose it on a different platform that offers written post, video, a nice clean layout, drill down functionality, and interaction with similar content that is on the Substack platform. So just more exposure to, you know, curious, inquisitive people who might stumble on this page. So,
Right, and it's
Or stumble once they get there.
yeah.
And it's appealing to a different clientele here too, isn't it, Ray?
Yeah, definitely. You have to really like to read, and I guess that kind of filters out a lot of the stuff you would you get on Facebook. I mean, that thing is programmed, heavily programmed to pull you in so many different directions. To dive into anything educational is just, I mean, you're working against yourself, you know.
Let me do something based upon what you just said, Ray. You have to like to read. Now, understand that I have the most severe case of attention deficit imaginable all my life. Imaginable. So when I'm looking at this recent Supreme Court decision on the birthright citizenship, and believe me, when I'm looking at all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, I'm seeing shit nobody else is even seeing. That's why when I say are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside, nobody will see that the citizen, the franchise, the United States franchise is the boat on the state, the island where the boat resides. That's where the boat lives. That's where the boat docks. That's where the dock is. By the way, the dock is where you find yourself. You call it a courtroom. So, and that's the federal. That's why it's Admiralty Court, because it's out there in the sea. It's out there in the water. It's an island out there in the water. That's why it's Admiralty, for crying out loud. They're flying Admiralty flags and you can't figure out what's going on here. It's because you're on an island, for crying out loud. But look at this. I'm staring at a sentence. So I can't do this. If I'm just listening to something, if somebody just reads me the 14th Amendment, it doesn't help me. But if I look at these words, I go, okay, I'm starting to see it now. It's starting to come through. I stared at text, you guys, for 17 years. My library is worth $100,000. People think, that freedom is free. I'm telling you, it's not. I mean, when I think of the $7 a month for the 500 plus hours that took me 17 years to chronicle, to put together, thank you for the word. It's taken me 17 years to find something that people can pay now $7 a month to get. Cost me my life. I have all the books. I had to read all this shit to even put an audio out. And the same with this Substack. My God, $8 a month is I think the bare minimum. Well, what is that together? $15 a month? Really? I mean, how important is your life? That's my whole thing. I feel like I'm doing a telethon. How important is your life? You know, I mean, for $15 a month, and you have all the content written out or putting out, and then all the audios for $7. God damn it! You guys have no idea what it's cost me, and I still buy books, sometimes 2 and 3 a week, because I'm still hungry to bust through. But believe me, when I bust through, I might just disappear completely from you. From the world. Actually, I already did, but the point is that I stare at sentences until it makes sense to me. I'm staring at it until it makes sense to me. I don't just read things and go, "Oh yeah, that was tough read." No, okay, I'll do one thing here. I back in 2019, I was staying out in Arizona with a friend of mine, Jordan Maxwell. And one night he turns to me and he says, "Kurt, there's a book that you have to read. True story." And he says, it's called Fire in the Minds of Men by James Billington. He said he was a librarian or the Library of Congress librarian. So I pick up this book because Jordan told me to read it, and I start reading it. And if you saw my version of it, I have multiple highlight colors. But in chapter 3, on page 55, there's a paragraph. By the way, the chapter is called "The Objects of Belief," which is the fetal maternal island territory. By the way, it's the religious relic that or the promised land, the deed to the promised land. That's what it actually is. But anyway, so and on page 55, on the next paragraph down, it says, "Liberty, the Republican ideal." And there's one paragraph here that actually explains everything that I've learned in 17 years. One paragraph in this book that Jordan told me to read. And here's the paragraph. It says, "The replacement of a monarchy by a republic was the major accomplishment of the initial period of the revolution. In the course of 1793, the Republican ideal was sealed in blood by the execution of the king, in ink by the drafting of a radical constitution, and in time by the adoption of a revolutionary calendar." That one paragraph, it would take me a month to explain it. But that one paragraph has the answer to everything going on in the whole world right now. The answer to the world's cancer, which is the legal fiction, is in this paragraph. Now, if you don't have the eyes to see it, you're not going to see it. But I've got this thing highlighted to the max. And this one paragraph evidences everything I discovered on my own in one paragraph. So I'm just telling you that when you have the eyes to see, or better yet, when you have the will to develop the eyes to see, then it gets exciting. And it's truly exciting for me now because I write something and the world changes. I mean, when I write to the president or write to the Pope or write to publish a book, the world changes. It won't be good for everybody, but it's certainly going to be good for me. Anyway.
It is really exciting. And this is the last thing I'm going to say, especially with Sean being here today in person, that was a mind-blowing experience. That was a first. It was pretty cool.
I've never met him.
Right.
Okay, so what do we let's rip through some really, really fun things just for a few minutes here, because my favorite thing is to be caught off guard. A question that really makes me dig deep. And we the three of us have them every morning when we talk, so they're always popping up.
Well, I have a few things, but something different is I sent Jeremy a visual. It's the Economist magazine, World Ahead 2026 front page. Okay.
Holy shit. Oh yeah.
And this gets a lot of attention on truther channels, let's put it that way. And it's all narrative. They never have anything to say about it other than maybe finding an occult symbol here and there. But right dab smack in the middle. That's what I kind of want to start with.
Can I just don't hold your breath, but give me 1 minute because I'm going to go get my copy. I have an issue of it up right next to my chair upstairs. Let me get it so I can look at it in real, in substance, rather than trying to look at I know what you're going to talk about, but I want to go get my real copy. Hang on.
Okay. Is there any way to zoom in, or can?
I'm on it. I'm looking right now. You read my mind. I can't zoom in, but I can find. Idea. Stand by. I'm cropping it.
Okay.
Okay, so I have my copy. You guys there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Here's what's interesting. So you got a picture of this up on the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
When somebody described this to me, I went out and bought one. So I actually had it in my possession. It cost $20. I bought it for the cover. There's good articles in there. Don't. I mean, but it's all, propaganda at this point. But the cover, go ahead and you can't even imagine what's on this cover.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say the obvious, but to the PMA, everyone focuses on the birthday cake, right? 250 years. And then, I guess we can start there if you want, but I was more interested in looking at what's around the birthday cake. I definitely do want to cover the cake and the cord with the remote control device, but I had questions about the ships, because there's a boat to the left, which is a cargo ship that has some sort of missiles coming out of it pointed at the cake. And then on the right, I don't know, it looks like it's these ancient fishermen with jugs, and you can see fish underneath the sailboat. So I'm curious what you're seeing in this visual. And behind the cake, you have the fist, the clenched fist, with a handcuff chained to the cake, with the American flag.
The right fist, by the way, the right hand, like the right hand of God.
And below the cake, we have the X, the swords in an X position, and behind the swords are, it looks like some sort of chart, some chart that, I mean, it could be seen as an economic chart, or it could be seen as a
heartbeat.
A heartbeat. Yeah. So, what are you seeing? Is anything jumping out at you that?
Yeah, there's so much in here, but the fun one right off the bat is the 250, and of course that's the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence.
Mm-hmm.
But the definition, what's funny is it's on a cake. Well, the definition of placenta at Etymology Online says the organ of attachment of a vertebrate embryo or fetus to the wall of the uterus or womb of the female. It says from modern Latin placenta uterina, uterine cake. From Latin placenta, a cake, a flat cake. So the placenta, the word placenta means cake. So the original birthday cake is the placenta. The placenta gets the birth certificate, but it is the certificate for the cake. And of course, people, you've heard it all your life. You can't have your cake and eat it too, which means to consume. You can't consume that or that deposit, or you can't consume that. And what? You can't have your cake and eat it. So if you eat the cake, you don't have the cake. If you have the cake, you can't eat the cake. When you understand what the cake actually represents, it makes sense. Now, right under the cake, you have a remote control with a cord running, a red cord. Interestingly, it actually kind of does a loop-de-loop there, which the sword is running through, by the way. And then it goes to what? It goes all the way to what could be a brain. It could be a brain.
Mhm.
But what's interesting is the remote control that looks like it's attached to I'm going to say a brain. Well, that's what the birth certificated person. I always talked about it like it was a voodoo doll. In other words, they got this character frozen in time, Curtis Richard Kallenbach, the birth certificated character. Let's just call it that. To me, that is a paper doll or a voodoo doll, because when they charge that character with a speeding ticket, the IRS comes after it, whatever, they charge that character with a crime of some sort. It's like, I call it like poking the voodoo doll, poking the doll. When they charge that character, who jumps? Who feels the pain?
The doll. Or
I
no,
do.
yeah.
I do in the present moment.
Yeah.
So they got this doll 65 years in the past on a Gregorian calendar, and they charge that doll. They poke it with something sharp, and I jump 65 years later in the present. Why? Because that is a form of remote control. They're controlling me in the present through a character that they've created frozen in the past. And the only reason I jump is because of the world's belief in voodoo.
Mhm.
The world's belief in voodoo, the world's belief in the birth certificated character. Everybody believes that they have a birthday. So the power of that birth certificated character is voodoo over the entire world. Oh, Kurt, everybody has a birthday. No, nobody has a birthday. Birthdays are fictions. They don't exist in nature. They just made up to control people. But everybody believes it. Everybody believes it. Everybody you know believes in the birthday. They want to celebrate it, for crying out loud. And of course, in the movie, or not movie, but in the book Fire in the Minds of Men, he talks about it. He talks about that birth certificated character. He calls it. He says, the replacement of a monarchy, that's my monarchy. At fertilization, my monozygotic maritime monarchy is created at fertilization. It says the replacement of a monarchy by a republic was the major accomplishment of the initial period of the revolution. Now, I can explain initial period, but I'll do that some other night. In the course of 1793, the Republican ideal was sealed in blood by the execution of the king. That's my biology, my monarchy. I'm the king, but when they clamp and cut the cord, my blood is spilled, is left behind on that island territory. The king's blood is on that island. It says, was sealed in blood by the execution of the king. When they cut the umbilical cord, my origin, also known as the head, the fountain head, my origin, which is evidenced in the placenta, my fetal biology is the head, my origin, the original material, that's the head of my kingdom. When they clamp and cut the cord, they decapitate me. They cut off my head. They cut off the king's head with the cutting of the umbilical cord. It says, sealed in blood by the execution of the king. That's what they did when they cut the umbilical cord. And then it goes on to say, in ink, by the drafting of a radical constitution. Well, what did they constitute? They constituted the federal The federal state, which consists of or is constituted by my biology and mom's biology. So they mixed us together. It's called inextricably intertwined. They mixed our lives together into one single legal fiction, a third party, third person. I call it a tertium quid. That's the island territory, but it's a radical constitution. Radical. I'm going to go to radical just to prove it. I'm going to radical at Webster's just to see what the hell radical says. Radical, man. You know what? I haven't seen this for a while, but let's just see what radical says at Webster's. Now, remember, I said that if you go to the back cover of First in Time and it shows that dome on that island or on mom's uterine wall, and it shows my orange root system going down into mom's soil. My roots going down into mom's soil. So I'm going to go to radical and let's see what radical says. Well, look at that. Number one says of, relating to, or proceeding from a root. Ah, really? Radical. Proceeding from a root. Of or growing from the root of a plant. Growing from the base of a stem, like from a root-like stem. Well, the umbilical cord is a stem. Of, relating to, or constituting a linguistic root. Look, the word root is everywhere in this radical definition. Look at designed to remove the root of a disease. Number two says of or relating to the origin. Fundamental. So again, radical not only means root, but it means the origin. That's my head. That's my, it's the root system. It's my roots. It's my genetic roots. They cut it off. They cut me off. So it says the drafting of a radical constitution. Well, what's the Constitution? It's the deed that evidences my roots in mom's soil. It's called what? 35 USC 101 is a patentable position. It's called the composition of matter. So they created a patent that's evidencing this kingdom. Drafting a radical constitution. That constitution is that patent, the deed to that ground. That's the Constitution for that biology. And then the third thing says, and in time, now we're talking about the calendar position, in time, by the adoption of a revolutionary calendar. Revolutionary. Every 365 days, you come back around to what? To that position, to renew your faith. In this paragraph, look at the word radical says roots. I'm telling you right now that everything is biology. Their entire narrative is based upon us giving up our kingdoms, our sovereignty, through stupidity, laziness, whatever. Anyway, radical.
I got to point one out here because I didn't notice it till today. Notice the gavel is breaking. Do you know what that's called? I just looked it up.
What?
It's called a sound block.
Really?
Yes.
That where the gavel is the gavel is hitting?
Yeah, I had to look up what it was, and it's a sound block.
Yeah, it looks like there's a fault in that block too, the way it's cracking.
So now that we know that name, please tell us what you see there.
Oh, I'm going to go to the word block.
Okay.
Because it's a sound block. A block. Well, how about this? I'll just right off the top of my head. A chip off the old block. Doesn't it look like there's a little chip out of that block?
Yeah.
Sure does.
A chip. A chip is what? It's a piece missing from the whole, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Better yet, I'm going to go to the word chip first. C-H-I-P. Chip at Webster's. Well, it says something small, worthless, or trivial. There is, how about this? Number 5 says a flaw left. A flaw left after a chip has broken off in this picture. of that sound block or where the gavel's hitting, isn't there a flaw in that block?
There is.
What's really weird about the block, if a chip off the old block, so now I'm going to go to the word block because I know that block means something specifically. Think about the cutting of the umbilical cord. If the entire kingdom is 100% and they clamp and cut the cord and they remove a small quantity, a flaw now exists, but the block itself, let's see what block says. A chip off the old block is actually the piece that they cut off of you. It's also known as a particular end, but let's see what block says. Look at that, interruption of normal physiological function as a tissue or organ. Look at this. Okay, a block. 2, first of all, obstacle is 2A. But look at 2D in psychology. Interruption or cessation, especially of a train of thought, by competing thoughts or psychological suppression. By competing thoughts. How many people their minds go all the way back to their true origin, or do they stop at birthday?
Yeah, they stop.
So there's an interruption or a cessation. They stop at birthday. They don't go all the way back to their origin, or worse, it only goes from the origin to the cut, which is not linked to the baby anymore. It's the decedent estate that's left behind. So in other words, all you're ever claiming or using is the decedent estate, the dead piece that was cut and removed from you, the chip off the old block. And look at this. Block number 3 says what?
Head.
Head. I'm going to click on head and let's see what it says. Sense 1. It says head, sense 1, but let me see what head means. The upper or anterior division of the animal body that contains the brain, the chief sense organs, and the mouth. So a chip. Imagine the head, the beginning, the origin, a chip off the origin, off the old block. Look at head also means the seat of the intellect, the mind. What happens if you're missing something? That's a chip that's missing from the mind, from the whole. Look at head also means at 4A, a person or individual. So a chip off the old block is a chip off the person, a chip off the individual. That's the cut. It's the cut. It's the piece that's missing from you. That's the chip. That's what's missing. Also, I'll say this about the word chip too. Most of Christianity, or most of the Christians, are worried about being implanted or having some chip implanted under their skin. It could be in their forehead, it could be in their wrist, it could be on their hand, or, the top of their hand. They're saying that the chip itself, something is going to be implanted, some form of chip is going to be implanted into people, so that they call it the mark of the beast. I'm telling you right now that there's already been an implant. The problem is I can't remove it. And nobody even knows that it's there, because what has been implanted is not something physical. It's an idea implanted into your brain. When you admit to a birthday, that is the chip. That's what's been implanted. When you agree to or adopt or accept a birth certificated character, that is the mark of the beast. Now, the beast itself is a whole different phone call, but I'm saying that you've already got it. The greatest implant of all time is not something physical. It's an idea in your head. And there's almost no way, no way for me to extract that idea because you already believe it. Everybody you knows believes it. So there's no way you're going to go against the entire world that believe in a birthday. It's just not going to happen. Until you actually know the birthday is that detrimental to your existence, you're not going to agree with me. You're going to say it can't possibly be that dangerous. Are you kidding me? You don't even exist anymore because of the fucking birthday. You don't even exist. You're not even here because of the cut. Oh, Kurt, that's just on paper. No, it's not, because there's no evidence that you're even here. The only evidence of your existence is that record, and that record doesn't go beyond the cut. It doesn't go beyond the afterbirth. So they have a decedent estate on the record with no living man that follows it up. All they have is a decedent estate on the record. Tell me how you're going to have rights when the only thing that evidences any piece of you is a record for an unsurpassed statistic, the cut material. You'll never be an owner. You'll never have any rights. You'll always be exactly as you are forever because you're just not willing to accept the truth. That's what it comes down to. And it's horrifying for me to sit here and say that fucking day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, because people don't understand. It can't be that easy, Kurt. It actually is. The answer is all present and accounted for from fertilization to last breath. That's the answer to everything once you learn the biology. A chip off the old block? No thanks. I'm whole. Jesus, in his own words, said, they that are whole, W-H-O-L-E, need not a physician. If you're whole, in other words, no chip removed from you, nothing missing, no chip. The point is that they that are whole need not a physician. You don't need a doctor if you're whole. The word whole, go to Etymology Online and look up health. If health, the definition of health is whole, wholesome, whole. So again, to be healthy is to be whole. And if you're healthy, you don't need a remedy because you're not diseased. If you're whole, you don't need a prosthetic because no arm is missing. Nothing's missing from you. They created the very situation that then requires a remedy or their administrative process to come in and fix you. What happens when you know the truth? You don't need their help.
You know, on the topic of blocks, I see two other, there's ice blocks, just a little bit to the right. There's a melting ice block, I should say.
What does that mean to you?
That means that the frozen in time record is unfreezing and thawing out. Which
isn't it funny that the 33rd degree of Freemasonry is supposed to be where all this knowledge is imbued, or where things start to happen for the Freemasons, for a Freemason? 33 Fahrenheit at 33 degrees is where ice melts into water and things start to flow again. So the 33rd degree, supposedly the age of Jesus, is when people wake up from their rumple or their Rip Van Winkle sleep. You know what I mean? They wake up and they're no longer frozen on the Gregorian calendar. They wake up to the truth. And now they're no longer that infant on the calendar. And that's at 33 degrees. Where things start to flow again, start to move again. Hell, even in the courtroom, they have to have language that says we're moving the court. To move the court. What are they talking about? It's because things are stuck until somebody moves it. Why? Because it's frozen.
frozen funds.
Frozen assets. Frozen assets.
What do you see? What do you get out of the robot dogs? I sent Jeremy a link to, this is a thing. You're seeing these robot dogs pop up in metropolitan cities, and someone decided to put the images of tech giants. So you got Musk, Bezos, and Zuckerberg, right? But on the World Economist cover, you see these robot dogs. One's on the northern part of that sphere, and then the other one's on the southern, right next to the ice block that we were just looking at. Because I know you've mentioned the dog before, right? But these are headless dogs, and they are also controlled by AI driven softwares. So explain that
Well,
one.
I'm a much simpler guy than you. First of all, it is a dog, which means it's the image of God. So it's already a dog, but you're calling it a robot dog, which makes it a machine
Mhm.
dog, a dog that's built it's not biological. It's actually a machine. Well, people don't know that the birth certificate itself is a tool or a device, which then makes it a piece of a machine part. So the birth certificated DOG image of God, me, that's a machine dog. If you want to look at it that way, a machine part dog is what you're calling the robot dog. And think about how dangerous the birth certificated DOG is to you. Look at how dangerous it is.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason you can be arrested for anything is because of that robot dog, because of that machine part, the tool known as the birth certificated DOG, the image of God, you, the breathing temple of God. That dog is dangerous, but it's only dangerous because it exists. And it only exists because of the cut. What happens when you're whole from fertilization to last breath? By the way, I should be clear about what the robot dog is. First of all, the biological DOG is the fetal maternal afterbirth or placenta. That's the thing that has the image of God. That's biology. But the robot dog is the representation or the paper or legal fiction. That's the machine dog. So you have the biological dog, which is the afterbirth, but then you have the thing that represents the biological dog, the afterbirth, which is the birth certificated person, which is the dog. So that's the machine part. The paper or the legal fiction paper is the machine part dog that represents the biological dog, the afterbirth. You see what I'm getting at?
Mm-hmm.
The machine dog is the birth certificate. But the birth certificate represents the biological dog, which is the afterbirth.
Yeah. What are you seeing with the syringe? And there's a man right underneath with it looks like I can't tell if he's depicting a doctor or a medical or if it's he's pulling a paper out with a red X right on the center.
Really?
And
Oh,
yeah,
yes. There I see it.
yeah, and right right behind him there's a syringe. So I'm not sure if there's any connection there or if that's separate, but the red X is popping out at me and he's pulling it out of some sort of a repository, like a file repository.
There's a big dollar sign there right beside him too.
Well, yeah, which is right next to the sound block that you had mentioned.
Right.
Well, it's interesting because the X is also a form of cross. Was it a St. Andrew's cross? It's also known as a saltire, but it's a red X. But X is also the letter used for the female gene or chromosome. And the birth record itself is only for that island territory, which is actually an X. The island territory, remember, is only the X because it's female. It's my mom's biology. So my mom's biology is XX. So again, If my biology, the Y male biology, is on mom's island, that would be I'm on that X. I'm on mom's biology. X marks the spot of where my boat is located, where my vessel is located. I should explain the word ark because you asked me about that earlier tonight. ARK. In Noah's Ark, Noah, remember what God told Noah to do to build this ark, but what actually did the ark contain? It contained animals. And those animals were what? 2 by 2. In other words, male, female for all the animals. Well, my ark, which is the 46 chromosome monozygotic maritime monarchy, or the zygote itself, that's my ark. And what does it contain? It contains 2 by 2 all of my parents, my mom and dad's genetic code. So there's a male, female, and then it includes the male and female moms and dads of my mom and dad and their moms and dads. And in other words, my grandparents all the way back 2 by 2. So my 46 chromosome ark contains all of the 2 by 2 pairings all the way back. Mine does. So my 46 chromosome zygote is the ark of my entire family all the way back. Animals, the biological animals, which is what we are biologically. So that is an ark. It's an ark with all the genetics of your entire family bloodline all the way back, both mom and dad, all the way back, 2 by 2. That's the ark. I just thought I'd make that clear because the zygote is an ark and you're Noah. So inside that ark that contains all the genetic code from all of your families all the way back is an embryo. That's Noah. So Noah's ark is the embryo inside that ark on the waters of mother. That's the flood.
I sent Jeremy a short video because this came up. I thought of this when you were covering that earlier, but also looking at this magazine cover, you see some imagery of space exploration.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was last year sometime. This was a huge story. Jeff Bezos, and I think they called it the Blue Origin. This is an egg-like capsule. So it's like a capsule, right? But if you notice,
Egg-like.
There's only women in here. Okay, there's only women in this capsule. And go ahead and play it. You don't have to put the volume on if you don't want. I kind of just wanted to.
1, 2, 3, take us space!
Flynn, I gotcha. Flynn.
Gotcha. Proud of you. Oh, the moon! You guys, I will have to tell you, look at the moon. That's amazing.
Wow, look at the blue line.
Okay. Now it's time to look out.
Okay, pause it right here. Pause it right there. Okay. This popped out at me because, yeah, it looks like a butterfly, but it also looks like an X, right? And you were talking about the X as the female chromosome, and there's nothing but women. And one of the things that happened is when this capsule landed on Earth, supposedly, she got out and kissed the ground. It was like this huge ritual where she kissed the ground, the soil, the Just So Lee.
Yeah.
So what do you have to say on that?
Well, there's something really sad about the birth record and the fact that the record itself, Curtis Richard Kallenbach, let's say, that is only for the island because there's no paper on baby. So that means there's no paper on baby. There's no paper on my 46 chromosomes. So if I remove my 46 chromosomes from the island, the paper isn't for me. My origin is fertilization. My 46 chromosomes is fertilization. So if you take my boat off that island, all you're left with is the island, which is the X chromosome, right? The female.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not on that island in the present, and that island is realistically only is the soil, and that's the soil that got the deed, or we'll call it the deed. So then that deed, that birth certificated deed for that promised land, is called Curtis Richard Kallenbach.
Mhm.
So
But
Look
wait.
at-
But
Hey, go.
it's female. Curtis Richard Kallenbach is female. All birth records are only for females. There are no males because the island territory is made up by mom's biology. So the only record that exists is for mom's island territory. So Curtis Richard Kallenbach does not indicate a male. It indicates a female biology. All birth records are for females. And even if they were for a female plus the infant, the fetal maternal placenta, that record only indicates a female and an infant. There are no men anywhere in the world because the record doesn't indicate any mature males in the world. So as long as the birth record is in play, there are no men anywhere in the world. Only women and children, women and infants. There are no men. You wonder why the world is so fucked up? No offense, ladies, but there are no men. It's just women and children, according to the record.
Yes,
That's why men can't fight for their families. Men can do nothing because they're not even here. They're all infants.
I guess.
There's
Can
only-
I
Okay,
point
go
something
ahead.
out
Go ahead.
extra quick here? So we according to their narrative, they were floating in space. They land. Okay, now look at this image on the screen here. Origin on the arm, very visible. Does that not look like implantation? She's even in the what do they call that position? The fetal position.
She is in that fetal position, isn't she?
And she's gently kiss is defined as to come in gentle contact. That she's gently kissing the ground just after floating across the waters.
She's marking it.
I don't know. It's hard. I see all this stuff, but I can't figure out yet. I mean, it is funny because on the actual arm it says blue origin, but they make sure that the blue is covered up and it just says origin.
Mm.
I don't know the context. I can't figure it out yet. You know what I mean? But they were all female, and all birth certificated persons are female because it's just the mother's biology, which is X, which is why everybody signs next to the X on their credit card statements and everything else. They sign next to the X because they're signing for the X, for the female. That's the bank, by the way. Remember that the X equals the bank. That's where your boat docks at the bank, or that's where your boat lands, on the bank. So the X is the female, but it's also known as the bank. It's the bank where your boat lands.
Well, before we get into the data center, can you click on that Zero Hedge article, Jeremy? The Supreme Court strikes down Trump's birthright citizenship. I sent it in the podcast prep because if you go down about halfway, there's a breakdown, a little bit more. Okay, right there, background. Okay, I'm going to read this. Birthright citizenship, the principle that nearly everyone born on U.S. soil automatically becomes a U.S. citizen, has stood as a foundational element of American law and identity for more than 150 years. Its modern constitutional anchor is the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868 after the Civil War. all persons born on natural or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. So that's the clause that we covered to begin with. And a little bit further down in bold, it says it established a clear rule of jus soli, citizenship by birth on the soil, with narrow historical exceptions such as children of foreign diplomats or members of invading armies. So, I mean, the tie-in, I mean, we made some leaps here from the World Economist to the Blue Origin to the female to the soil. She was kissing the ground, kissing the soil, the female. We circled back to jus soli. So what are you seeing in this commentary right here? Anything popping out?
You got to think of the Americas. At least, I mean, all three of us are located on the Americas. The Americas are North America, Central America, and South America. Those are the Americas. So even Bolivia is, I mean, people born in Bolivia are Americans. People born in Mexico are Americans. People born in Canada are Americans because they're on American soil, the northern continent. So everybody in the Americas are Americans. Now, that being said, the Americas were claimed by the Roman Catholic Church in 1493 through Inter Cetera. So the Pope claims for Latin Catholicism the Americas. So the soil, the American soil, was claimed by Rome or claimed by Spain via the Roman Catholic Church through Inter Cetera. So now you got the Roman Catholic Americas as the soil. So now the soil of the Americas is Roman Catholic. And that's what it is. So, but what about the United States, Kurt? Well, the United States is not the Americas. It's a separate thing altogether. So the soil, the ground itself, is the Americas, but the Americas are Latin Catholic. Now enter the United States. Well, who's the United States? Well, the United States ultimately came in through, I'm going to say, I'm just going to use some words here, but what New York, the original New York, who Amsterdam, it was called New Amsterdam. So New York used to be New Amsterdam, but now it's New York. But where's Amsterdam located?
The Netherlands.
So the Netherlands are the ones that were operating the first, we'll call it the first, they created the first stock certificates. They were the ones that were running like the East India Trading Company.
Mm-hmm.
So they are the Protestants, the Protestants. The United States is like the Protestants and the Martin Luther part of the church or Christianity, whereas the Americas, the land was Latin Catholic. So when you put the United States Protestants, and the Latin Catholic Americas together, you have the Protestants and Catholics. United States is Protestant. The land under it, the Americas, are Latin Catholic. So you got these two positions that typically don't work super well together. So they had to bond. They had to find a way to bond the Protestants to the Catholics, the head to the body. So the United States of America is Protestants, and Catholics bound together. That would be the tertium quid if you want to go to tertium quid. But what it really comes down to is the bond that's holding the church together, and that's really what the United States of America is. Now, was it always that way? No, but they found that's the separation. The Protestants is the United States. Simple as that. And the Latin Catholics are the Americas, and that's how it's divided right now. It's just the way it is. Is it real? No. Does it affect all of us? Yes. But is it reality? No. So when all of a sudden you start to realize that they created this island with a boat, the federal government is the boat, and the island is the piece of ground. And is that piece of ground, by the way, is it still connected to Latin Catholic Americas?
Yeah.
No, it's separated. It's an island. It's separated from. Is it not? When it comes out of mother, is it not? Hasn't it broken away from the mainland?
Mm.
Can you picture it as not part of the Americas?
Yeah. I'm just looking at the word civil. That's why I'm thinking of the civil calendar.
Be careful, because Rome itself is both pagan and Christian. Pagan and Christian. So the Roman pontiff is both. He's playing the role of the state and the church.
Mhm.
So civil calendar and Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar is evidencing one position and the civil calendar is evidencing another, but they're both the same. The Gregorian and civil are interchangeable. So what if you have the civil calendar character as the boat, the commercial character, the civil, and the land under or the island as the Gregorian calendar character, but they're bound together into one? Internationally, that's the measure, the piece that's cut. That's the measure they use at the UN to keep the peace. So it's the Protestants and the Catholics together, the boat and the island together is the measure the United Nations is using right now. In fact, I'm going to go to UN real quick. UN Charter. Because it's right up the front. It's at the front end of the United Nations Charter. So there it is right there. I'm just going to go to the treaty collection or whatever. And it's the measure that they're using. The cut is the measure. The measure is that island territory that evidences the Protestants, the boat, and the Catholics, the island, bound together at peace. And the First Amendment talks about it as peaceable assembly. Peaceably assembled. But let me just do this. So the UN Charter, again, my computer's really slow. I suppose I can close a couple of these things. Do you have it? You have the UN? Oh, there it is. You already have it up. There it is. Article 1. There it is right there. Chapter 1, Purposes and Principles. Article 1. The purpose of the United Nations are. The purposes of the United Nations are. Number 1, to maintain international peace. Between who? The Catholics and the Protestants. To maintain international peace and security, and to that end, to take effective collective measures. To take effective collective measures for the prevention and removal of threats to the peace, and for the suppression of acts of aggression or other breaches of the peace, and to bring about by peaceful means and in conformity with the principles of justice and international law, adjustment or settlement of international disputes or situations which might lead to a breach of the peace. Remember that this fetal maternal placenta, the deposit is the measure, and that measure is what is the effective collective measure that the United Nations is using to force peace. They're using that afterbirth deposit as the collective measure for peace. But if you go to the definition of war at Webster's, you'll realize that the cutting of the umbilical cord is what actually begins the war. At 2B, it says a struggle or competition. War is a struggle or competition between opposing forces for a particular end. The particular end is the cut end. So they're saying that the cut end is what brings peace, but in fact, the cutting of the cord that creates or gives rise to the particular end is actually the beginning of the war. Now, I want you to think about this, guys, and it's really subtle. This is one of those really weird things. So they clamp and cut the cord to create a particular end. Once this particular end is separated from the baby, a war exists now. Competition over that particular end. What particular end? The part they cut off. So now there's a war over this particular end. Well, how do you bring peace? You bring that particular end back together with the baby. Now that's a remedy, is it not?
Mhm.
It becomes the remedy to end the war. But they created the war by clamping and cutting the umbilical cord, giving rise to the particular end itself. So they create the war, and then they say, oh, yeah, but we have a way to bring peace. By doing what? By bringing that collective measure back into the play and say, oh, yeah, here's the peaceful, the harmony between those two positions. But they're controlling that harmony. They're controlling that peace through the United Nations. I'm saying that it's all bullshit. If you're already biologically whole from fertilization to last breath, none of this false narrative, none of this shit even can happen. It cannot even happen. No court can even call you because there's no case. There's no war. But you got to be active in your light. You got to be shining this light really bright and letting the world know that you know this shit. This has nothing to do with me. I can't do anything for anybody. They got to do it for themselves. You learn this shit and then you let people know that you know it. I can't do anything for anybody.
Yeah, let's
know-
end there. Keep going on that, Kurt. Keep
What's
talking
that?
about that. Well, keep talking on that point.
Well, I'm going to go back to the Montevideo Convention where they actually created this island state. Because this is really weird. The Montevideo Convention. Okay. Because at Article 8 of the Montevideo, let me see. Let me go see if I can find a better version of it. I'll just go back to this. At Article 8 at the Montevideo Convention, it actually says that Kirk can't do anything for you. It does. I mean, if I know my island, if I know all of this stuff, I also know that Article 8 is in play. Article 8 at Montevideo says no state has the right to intervene in the internal or external affairs of another. I can't even help you, according to the Montevideo Convention. You got to do this for yourself. By the way, what's really weird too about these federal states. So you have Illinois as a state where I should have arrived and been part of the lower contiguous 48 states of the United States. But instead, they create this federal island state, which is what they would call one of the American states. It's one of the American states. But according to Article 8, no state can help another state. What's really weird is every single birth certificated person in the world has its own state, a federal state, which means all of us, if we understand this, would be the sovereign over that state, over that island. We would be it. We would be the monarch over that island. So on a global scale, each one of these individual federal states indicates a global democracy. You want to know when the democracy came into play? It came into play when everybody got their own state. Now, each individual state, each individual position is its own state, which makes it a democracy, a global democracy. Whereas if I arrived on Illinois soil, I'd be part of a constitutional republic. But I never really get here because somebody created a democratic or a global democracy with the clamping and cutting of the cord, creating an island state. That's a global democracy. Each individual person with a birth certificate is its own state as part of a global democracy. So that state is not part of the United States of America. That's a separate federal state that is international in its scope, which is the international global democracy. If I arrive here, if I'm truly arriving here to Illinois, I come out of the womb, I land on the soil of Illinois. That federal state should not be in play. It shouldn't be in play.
Now that phrase you hear everywhere, it's a threat to democracy. A threat to democracy makes a lot of sense.
Yes, because the birth certificated character is the democracy.
Uh-huh.
Whereas the whole man arriving to Illinois would be a capital C Illinois citizen or an Illinoisan. That Illinoisan has the Bill of Rights protecting it. The global democracy, the global citizen, doesn't have the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is only for the United States of America, the constitutional republic. It is not for corporate citizenships. So the Bill of Rights doesn't apply to any birth certificated person. But Kurt, the Second Amendment says I can bear arms. Well, the Second Amendment doesn't apply to birth certificated corporations.
Mm-hmm. Tom says, I only show you the door. You have to walk through it.
Well,
in the chat.
Anyway, so is there anything else? We've been on almost 3 hours. Let's just say in 12 minutes, we're done.
All right.
Okay, but what I want in 12 minutes, there's got to be some. There's got to be something that we can actually. 12 minutes is a long time for me to babble.
Well,
do you have something, Ray?
No, unless you have anything.
Well, this is other than the appearance in the one Substack article. Why don't you go hard on this image, Kurt?
Oh, yeah, perfect. By the way, you're the one that created this.
Well, inspired by your thoughts.
Okay, so this is an equation that I came up with, and I think once people understand this, it's absolutely brilliant, and it's beautiful the way you made it look. But so basically the idea is one, not the number one, the one, O-N-E. Big difference. In fact, let me do that real quick. I'm going to go to Webster's, and I'm just going to go to the word one, definition of one at Webster's. This is so beautiful because one, I mean, how many lives have you led? I don't want to go into any weird shit. How many lives have you led since fertilization, Ray?
One.
Right. One. From the beginning, one. There's only one. But when they clamp and cut the cord, they create this position of two, this split personality. But look at the definition of one says being a single unit or thing, being one in particular, being preeminently what is indicated. In other words, 46 chromosomes all the way through. Being the same in kind or quality, constituting a unified entity of two or more components. Well, that, depending on how you look at that, a unified entity of two or more components. That could be sperm and ovum. But it also could be the boat on the island.
Right.
It could be. But if it's the boat on the island, that could be heaven and earth. Because The thing created at fertilization is through an act of God, so it becomes heavenly. The uterine wall is of the earth or Mother Earth. So when I implant into mom's uterine wall, I come out of the heavens, out of the waters, and land in mom's uterine wall. At that moment, heaven and earth are bound together, which in harmony. So you got to look at that too. The only time there's not harmony is when I come out of mom and my boat is left behind on that island, and it's considered to be a derelict vessel or an empty castle, or the house of God being empty of or devoid of life. It's all those things. They can make it up to be whatever they want because it's a legal fiction. It's a fiction. But the number one, the first whole number above zero. In other words, until it's whole, it's not. So people say, well, Kurt, what about the sperm? I mean, life existed before the zygote. No, it didn't. My life did not exist. And I'm talking about human. I'm not talking about sperm. I'm talking about human. A human life, the origin of the species is fertilization. And that is the combination of 23 chromosomes from dad and 23 from mom. So the 46 chromosome zygote is the origin, is the number one. It's ONE. Because it's the first whole number above zero. So until it existed as a whole zygote, complete, it didn't exist at all. It didn't almost exist. It either did exist or it didn't exist. Upon fertilization, it does exist. There is no part almost zygote. It doesn't exist. Creation, the moment of creation it's all or nothing. It either happened or it didn't. So the first whole number above zero is one. The number denoting unity. A single person or thing. And then what's really weird is it has a $1 bill. But again, a certain indefinitely indicated person or thing. I like the word one better than a number one, because a number one only indicates a quantity of something. Whereas the word one not only indicates a quantity, but it also has all these other. Look at number 5. It says only. Number 5 at the definition of one says only. And then, of course, only says unquestionably the best or peerless. Number 2A says alone in a class or category, sole. Look at this. 2B says having no brother or sister. There's so many good things about it. Anyway, so I'm going to get out of one and I'm going to go back to the equation, because I figure I got 7 minutes left. So present 46. That's me sitting here at this desk right now. That's me in the present with these 46 chromosomes. Over the past, which is from zygote, from the beginning at zygote. And the zygote has the exact same 46 chromosomes too. So if I take the present 46 over the past 46, in other words, 46 over 46, it reduces to 1/1, which equals 1. So it's one unbroken, continuous, contiguous, and then monozygotic maritime monarchy. So this equation is whatever I call the present plus whatever they call the past. But the past has exactly the same 46 chromosomes I'm using today. So you put 46 of the present over the 46 in the past, that reduces to 1/1, which actually is 1, ONE, 1 monozygotic maritime monarchy. From the beginning, all present and accounted for. So let me look at that. All present. The word present at the top is 46 chromosomes. All present and accounted for. Well, what's the accounted for? That's the past. It's anything that is unmentioned or anything that was cut off of me. That past is the 46 chromosomes that is now accounted for with this knowledge. So my present 46 chromosomes that I'm breathing life into right now, plus the past, which is the accounted, the account, what most of you people chasing would be called the minor account. You put that minor account 46 chromosomes with my present 46, and again, it reduces to 1/1 equals 1. It's me. It's my kingdom. There is no two positions. There's no alternate universe. There's just me in the present moment. And this equation, I actually put in my last letter to the president. In fact, I have a couple minutes left. Let me just read what it says about that 46 over 46. You know what? I mean, I got a couple minutes, but I'm just going to read the last part of this presidential letter. Here it is.
It's a great way to finish.
What's that?
It's a great way to finish.
Yeah, I think so, because here's what I wrote. And I'm going to read the postscript, which is pretty important. And not everybody's going to know what it says, but it's a great way to end this call. It says, postscript, P.S. To commemorate the 250th anniversary of a declaration dissolving political bondage, I hereby shine my own authentic light in order to surpass a formal iatrogenic record, reducing the faultless evolutionary due process of one's continuous and contiguous monozygotic maritime monarchy to a born alive legal fiction, due to the violent removal of one's naturally occurring, inextricably intertwined fetal-maternal organ, i.e. data bank, i.e. Federal Reserve, i.e. our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. That's what it is. Our lives and fortunes, our sacred honor is the fetal-maternal placenta on deposit. Next paragraph is basically is just the definition of federal. Note, federal, as a theological term in reference to covenants between God and man, an adjective formed from Latin fidus, a covenant, a league, a treaty, an alliance. Also from this period in U.S. history comes the sense favoring the central government, which is 1788, and the special use of the word to mean a state in which the federal authority is independent of the component parts within its legitimate sphere of action. That's weird, because that's that state as person, state as person, the Montevideo state. Then right below that, I put this equation. Present, but I added one thing. I said present, land-based, 46 chromosomes, over past, waterborne, that's B-O-R-N-E, by the way, waterborne, 46 chromosomes, equals 1 over 1 equals 1 equals 1 maritime or monozygotic maritime monarchy. And then the last paragraph in this postscript says, as president, you possess the official capacity to reconcile the gist of one's past and present personality into one inimitable status quo antebellum monarchical head. One, by the immediate return of all extraterritorial data bank kingdom property originating ab ovo, including but not limited to one's legitimate rights, titles, and interests to patents, copyrights, and trademarks usurped or held in abeyance via fraud, confusion, eminent domain, etc. And two, by providing a letter of safe conduct, i.e. right-of-way passage, across the realm for one's whole family. And three, by providing a forensic fiduciary 24/7 to keep fictitious iatrogenic charges from injuring one's naturally intact monozygotic maritime monarchy at any point between fertilization and last breath. And four, by declaring nulla bona the infant island territory, i.e. certificated state as person, in order to dissolve the political bondage of the belligerent Gregorian calendar character for members of the Society of the Sojourner, that's the PMA. And five, by declaring as the country's commander-in-chief that every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature, i.e. no artificial support system, with the only alternative being one's voluntary public service. Now, most people have no idea that those are the only two choices. Either every man's independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature, which is Cruden versus Neal, or you become part of the public service. Those are the only two positions. And that public service is that federal state, or what's known as the civil service that FDR created in the New Deal in 1933, that came alongside the Montevideo state and the birth certificated deeds to the Promised Land. That's public service. People don't realize public service is like the worst possible scenario. You know, it's the worst. So the only two alternatives is either you're 100% responsible for your life, or you're part of the voluntary public service. So anyway, and then finally at the bottom, right after this postscript, it says, no fiction shall extend to work an injury, its proper operation being to prevent a mischief or remedy an inconvenience which might result from the general rule of law, which is Blackstone. And then I thumbprinted the letter, the actual letter, but at the bottom of the postscript, I signed it, Curtis R. Period, which is the monarch signature, the signature of the monarchy, which is evidenced by the R. Period. So, I mean, I'm doing a lot of things that nobody really knows about, because nobody will understand it anyway. So I don't usually talk about it, but we'll see what happens now, because the president has my letter along with all 3 books and an audio of 2026, which I discussed earlier in the call. So I would advise everybody to listen to 2026 as many times as possible too, because 2026 actually lays out everything for this year. Anyway, that's all I got.
It's a solid 3 hours.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that was great.
I'm probably going to put the letter behind the paywall, though, the whole letter, because I think we can discuss the letter at length. It is pretty amazing. So,
All right. Well, it's 1:03
oh my God.
a.m. in the Atlantic time zone. I don't even think you guys have that time zone in the south of the border, do you?
No, I think you're 1 hour further than even the Eastern time.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Anyway, well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'll do whatever you guys want to do. It is hard. I know that this shit is hard, but once you get it, it's easy. I can honestly say that this shit is easy for me all the way now, completely. I can explain anything easily in my head. It's just hard to get there. Once you're there, though, it gets easy. I mean, you guys can attest to that.
Well, and once you really get it, you want others to get it so much more. So I think that's what inspires me, and having that conversation in person today, like the fire's lit again. Even
That's good, because it's a burden. It's heavy to carry by yourself, but when you guys are around, or when I'm talking to you guys, I mean, that starts a fire for me. But it's really hard, man. I mean, I'm really tired after all these years talking about this shit. But now it's exciting. There's some young people that have completely awakened or are awakening. By the way, I'll leave you with this. I think people go read what you can on Rip Van Winkle. Where does he emanate from? Where does that story come from? Because I think it's Dutch, isn't it?
it is.
And the Dutch they're the ones that created the birth certificate for all the sleeping people.
The House of Orange.
Yeah, and I think Rip Van Winkle, I think he was asleep for 20 years or 30 years, which is actually called an ancient. 20 years is ancient. Right. So the birth record itself, I mean, we're asleep for 20 years using the birth record, which is ancient. But I mean, Rip Van Winkle wakes up and, everything's changed around him. And I don't even think he owns anything anymore. So again, it's a Dutch fable that is evidencing the birth certificated character, the birth certificated infancy.
I got to say one more thing, just because you brought up the Dutch one more time. When you were speaking of it earlier, because it came up, I forget where it came up about a week ago, but I was mentioning the House of Orange and the Dutch, and because the Dutch actually laid claim to the original treaties here, and then they never came back. But if you think of both positions. Would you agree in me saying that the pure position is the white position and the BC position would be the red position?
Well, red, it could be also, I mean, red is considered communist.
What I'm getting at is if you combine the two, both positions, you get orange.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
Well, it's pretty weird too that red, white, and blue is the same color as the Dutch flag, is it not?
I believe so.
I'm gonna just pull up a Dutch flag real quick, because who's to say that that's not red, white, and blue is not what we're actually involved in, the Dutch. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure we are, but I shouldn't say
they're
we.
the top of everything, in my opinion, and they bank it all in Switzerland.
Well, yeah, Dutch flag. Yeah, the Dutch flag basically is.
It's also the French flag.
Flag, yeah. Look at the flag of the Netherlands. I mean, it's red, white, and blue. So people are screaming and hollering for the good old red, white, and blue, and they don't realize maybe it's Dutch.
And then
You
you
know what I
get
mean?
this one.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. The Dutch and the French, they're right there in the middle of all this this fiction. Yeah, they're right in the middle. So, but we just have to. I mean, seriously, we could talk all night, but it's a lot of. It gets fun when you really do wake up. But I would read a little bit about Rip Van Winkle, because you realize that's what happens to every birth certificated person. They fall asleep, and 20 years passes by, and 20 years is actually the number of years for an ancient record or an ancient document. So it's all there. And of course, it says he imbibes a strong liquor and falls deeply asleep. But liquor is also known as spirits, and spirits are also known as to take in spirits would be like a religious idea. So when you start to get tainted by religion and get drunk with religion or drunk with the spirits, those types of spirits, you fall asleep. Mentally, you're no longer here, no longer present because of that weird belief or weird faith. So they can consider you drunk on religion. So yeah, it's all there, but you gotta really dig, and you gotta not be in a hurry. Good, but I got some shit going on. I need to learn all this right now. Well, it's not going to help you right now, because the truth is weird. The truth works all the way down, and so you got to establish it. You got to put it out there. You got to be diligent, but you got to do something, and you got to always tell the truth. You don't get to lie at any point.
Right.
But you got to learn that you're the owner. It's that simple. And then you have to be responsible for your own life. And that's huge, absolutely fucking huge. So on that note, I don't get any Social Security, and I never will. And I don't have any fucking, what do they call it? The hospital stuff that they give old people. What are the different hospital plans they give people? Social Security is one thing. What's the other stuff they have?
Medicare.
No, not disability. What's the other stuff called?
Medicare.
Medicare, Medicaid. I don't get any of that shit either, because I just can't. I just can't. So
We gotta stop falling off those bikes, Kurt.
yeah. No, you know what? The funny thing is I already know I'm not going to the hospital, so I'm going to get up and ride away. That's a big incentive. All right, guys, I'm gonna go upstairs and see what Debbie's doing, and
Okay.
but like I said, anything you want me to do, just tell me and I'll do it.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks.
See you guys. Bye, everybody.
Good night, guys.